So I was on YouTube yesterday and I found a video with 92 views on it from a channel with 143 subscribers called the Mythic Dungeon League. I don't know anything about these people, but the title was Around the Mage Table, Episode 6. So it's a podcast, I think. Asmon versus the Mage Table. And they call themselves the Mage Table. Maybe they're mages. I listened to about 10 to 15 minutes of this, and from what I could tell, it was people reacting to all the takes that have been happening around retail recently. Asmongold popularized one. He had 3 things that he said would fix WoW. Make raids 40-man, all add-ons are gone with no exceptions, and every class needs to have only 10 buttons. And that has been discussed ad nauseum by everyone, but the takes that you'll usually hear on my channel and from people that I talk to all kind of think the same way. And you guys always say, like, try to get some different perspectives. And getting those perspectives are hard because you generally just are around people that think the same as you, right? My chat, even though a lot of you guys don't raid at a super high level, it's hard to, like, cherry pick other opinions and stuff and like try to understand them. When you read the WoW forums, those people don't even seem real. They're like chronically online and just making fucking wild arguments. And I listened to a little bit of this podcast and I'm like, damn, these people have a totally different perspective than me. None of these people raid Mythic. I think they all raid some level of Heroic. So they do some content. They refer to themselves not as the top 1%, but like the top 6 or 8%. And I think those are people that just like clear Heroic at some point in the season or something. So certainly doesn't represent everyone, but certainly a level under me that I don't really understand. And they had a couple of pretty good takes and from a different perspective that I normally see. So what we're doing today is people always ask to broaden my perspective, you know? Get someone on the podcast that just collects mounts and stuff. And those people are impossibly hard guests to find. Finding people like that that are actually interesting and you know that going into it, that can like be a good guest and come from a different perspective, impossibly hard to find. Especially, and I don't want to talk to a content creator. I want to hear from the fucking people. These people just seem like the people. The point of this is not to like dunk on them. It's actually just to kind of hear some other perspectives and discuss it. So that's what I want to do today. Let's start it up. Let's meet our contestants.
Hey everyone, as discussed in our last episode, the episode that we recorded ran a lot longer than we anticipated, so we're splitting into 2 parts. This is part 2. We hope you enjoy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Moving on to what I'm really
Wait, I need to move my camera.
excited for, because some of these topics are fabulous for me, and I'm gonna get people hating me.
All right, that guy's mic's kind of brutal, but it's all
You
good.
mean on the Asmongold
Who are
takes?
Yep.
Okay, so
I don't know this.
let's
take,
give a
so.
quick rundown. Asmongold, you know,
Let's just go one by one.
yeah, we will. The problem with Asmongold and is
could be
like
a whole
Asmongold will
podcast,
say
though.
something. Yeah, we're running out of time anyways. But Asmongold will say something on his stream, and then his editors will take it and turn it into a YouTube like clickbait firestorm.
With his
right?
face like.
Yeah, exactly.
Dude, actually pretty good. We've talked about this a few times, but like I feel like Asmon at one point it seems like just told his editors like, hey, we'll like split the money or something and you guys can make this content because they were making it on their own. And I think he kind of just leaves that to them. Like, I don't think, bro, someone told me that I had made a YouTube video about season 4 recently, and then I looked at my channel and it was like, it had my head in my hands and it looked so dobby. It was like an actual Asmongold thumbnail and I didn't even know it existed, right? So like, not to say that Frank can do whatever the fuck he wants, but like I imagine Asmon's the same way. Like editors do whatever the fuck you want, right? I remember I almost never watch Asmon's content, but I watched his stream one morning when I was getting ready. And he was going over to the like Mythic 0 changes with like the no timer and stuff, that whole thing. And it was like really positive. And then he moved on to some other things. And it was like, there was no YouTube video of that, right? There's never any YouTube videos of Asmon that are like positive towards WoW, really. And I don't know if that's really his doing or his editor's doing. They're probably just looking for views, right? Maybe a, hey, this system is good, doesn't get a lot of views. But like there was, and it wasn't like they weren't making videos that day. They made videos for things that happened later in the day. But then like he'll like someone will ask him a question like, hey, what do you think about this? And it'll be some like hot spicy take, and they just make some YouTube video on that, has the worst thumbnail of all time and title, and then that's what everyone talks about, right? So like I just think it's important to note that like a lot of people's negative opinions, especially retail players that are like have heard enough of Asmon's you know, they're just kind of over it. A lot of it is his editors, I think, because it makes him appear much more one-sided than he actually is.
But the long and short of it is that
With this,
Yeah, that's a good technique.
Yeah, good one.
Asmon has said, and I'm gonna switch us back to the other screen.
I want to point out
pull
before
up
you
the
say it,
video.
I
and see if
just
he's not
fucking,
doing-
I just moved it. Maybe down here. Yeah, I guess that'll work. Okay, so let's get their stuff here. So we have Technic at the bottom right. We have Cheney Boy the Butcher. We have Scrapsy Law, which is current cat fight champ. Cat flight champ? can't tell if it's an I or a L. Guys, I know it's Claw. Come on, guys. Guys, come. Are you fucking okay? And then Frankenberry, first to 3,000 IO. Do I get? I know what Claw is, chat. Come on. I just did it pro bono. Actually, fuck. What might be really good to start this? I listened to a little bit of this earlier this morning. That's how I figured out I wanted to watch this on stream. They do end up talking a little bit about their experience, but I would like an introduction because we haven't heard from them before. But as far as I can tell, none of them Mythic Raid, or maybe one of them does or something. The rest of them do like AOTC or lower and have just a broad range of opinions.
Exactly.
Start watching this.
You had to tell me what
he's
the video
doing that.
was because I do not watch him. He does annoy the living hell out of me.
He does,
so
yeah, he
the fact
does.
that he
And
said
honestly,
something stupid.
we'll get to that in a second.
Okay, so just for when they're reacting to the opinions, these two people are at least the top two are not huge fans of Asmon off the bat.
Because I feel like he's the boomer that's like telling us that, shaking his fist.
That is for people who don't like Asmon that are retail players. There is a huge vibe of of like this is that guy on his lawn yelling and hasn't played the game for a while and is kind of out of touch with opinions kind of thing. That is if you are a against Asmon person again and you don't watch his content like this guy said, the only time you do hear of him is when he is annoying you. So like you do have a almost like a caricature version of him in your head that is much worse than it is in my opinion, and I disagree with him a lot as well. But yeah, go on.
He's technique about transmog.
So the long and short of it is Asmon said that WoW will die unless 3 things happen. And forgive me if I'm very poorly paraphrasing that, because it's not really that part that matters.
I watched the video.
I don't think that's actually... I mean, it's kind of semantics what he actually phrased it as, but I think it was like... Was it WoW will die unless these 3 happens, or was it like these 3 things will fix WoW? I mean, either way, it was like a hyperbolic statement about changes that need to be made. Yeah.
Video today.
Yeah.
Because it's homework.
What the 3 things he called out was every raid should be a 40-man raid and should be of the difficulty of what Ulduar's hard modes were.
Mm-hmm.
He said that there are too many buttons, that they should be bloated or trimmed down to about 10 buttons total per class.
Yes.
Right?
Like he wants only 10, not even to about 10. 10.
Yep.
10.
10 or less, I think is what he said, or something like that.
Yeah.
But and then he said that all add-ons should be removed, no exception. Okay, so let's take this one at a time. We'll start with the 40-man raid. I'm gonna.
Oh man, it's an unfortunate one to start with because that's like the low-hanging fruit, right? That's the one where it's like there's no argument, right?
Ask you guys, do you think
2-minute take?
No, yeah, I'm just gonna say, give me this is what's a good way to like, this is a good take, this is an ice cold take, like just tell me your thoughts.
Shawnee.
Yeah, Shawnee, kick us off. 40-man raid.
It is hard enough to get 20 competent people together for Mythic, let alone getting people together competent for AOTC.
Wait 1 second. Someone in chat said he clarified the part about buttons. He only wants 10 rotational buttons. Bro, I'm doing this on the top of my head right now, but there are a lot of classes that only have 10 rotational buttons, like functionally. That's like actually more than some. Like you're talking like just DPS, right? We because I don't know if you guys were here for that stream, but after he made that take, I actually tried to make a good faith argument onto what classes would look like with 10 buttons, and we ended up just removing all defensives, utilities, and cool iconic spells from the game, like leap and charge and all that stuff. And then like we just basically had 7 rotational buttons, which we actually found out was most classes in the game only have 7 rotational buttons or less. And then you could have 3 more after that. So rotationally, 10 is actually more, I think, which is weird. So basically, he just wants to walk that point back, I think.
Where?
We talked about this before, but like the 10 button thing seemed like a hyperbolic solution to a problem, which is that the game is too bloated with buttons, which I think I could get behind. The 10 thing is just a crazy, crazy oversimplification that would have a lot of problems, yeah.
40 people at this time and age would just be, it'd be atrocious in chaos.
So bad take. Scrap, what do you think?
Bad take. I mean, I definitely think it is more gatekeepy. Like it's harder to get to 40 men, and it's like harder to play at harder levels. Now I wouldn't mind if they introduced like a next tier, like an ultra mythic that you had to be 40 man for. That would satisfy people like him.
Oh wait, well hold up.
That's fine, but having it as the
whoa, for people like him, I'm so okay. Wait, ultra mythic 40 man
mythic that you had to be. Now I wouldn't mind if they introduced like a next tier, like an ultra mythic that you had to be 40 man for. That would satisfy people.
I think if they were gonna do a 40 man raid, I think it would be lower difficulty, right? Because like, okay, here's the issue with 40 mans. It's the same issue with world bosses. Making good quality, challenging content that involves 40 people having to be in communication with each other, which I guess is what they're assuming here with Ultra Mythic, right? That is actually where 40-man falls apart at the seams. 40-man kind of only works when you can have a few of your bad players die and it doesn't matter. Like Classic, right? Like a lot of the 40 people didn't matter. You didn't need 40 people to do the 40-man raids, right? It needs to kind of be easier. Like the world where it's a super challenging raid that's built for 40 players, it's just too many people. It's hard enough for some people to get 20 people. To get 40 people on the same page is impossibly hard, and usually just ends up being chaos and mechanic vomit. And there's actually a little bit of to give you a little bit of insight into how I think that would work. I think WildStar showed you. WildStar came out, had kind of a hard attunement process, which probably fucked that game. But then they had a brilliantly made 20-man raid. Really good. Genetic Archives. And then a month later, they released a new raid called Datascape, I think. Datascape. And it was a 40-man. And it was extremely hard. I don't know how much of it was hard. We only did the first boss, System Demons. But, like, it was extremely difficult. Not sure how much of it, again, was the actual fights or the having 40 people working together thing, but that was a large reason as to why that game died. They tried to go down the let's make really hard 40-mans. Bro, if they made hard 20-mans like they did Genetic Archives, I think it would have kept kicking. Like the 40-man thing just killed it. I'd be hard pressed to find actual well-made hard content that involves 40 players. It just seems like it's never been done before. It just seems like, I mean, I guess it worked in Classic when people were worse, but like, I'm thinking like nowadays, like a whole Ultra Mythic. I just don't even think it's I don't know. Interesting.
Like him, that's fine. But having it as the only standard, that's just shit. Because like, sometimes we only have 12 people who we enjoy, you know?
Well, and we're not even Mythic Raiders, so we don't even know the pain of trying to get 20 people together, right?
No,
and that's why I wanted to watch this, non-Mythic Raiders.
We don't even get 20 people together. We just want to play with our friends and not have to have a bunch of sweaty yahoos, like, you know.
Fucking yahoos, get
as
out
much
of
as I love the idea of the nostalgia of a 40-man raid, if you really truly think back to those days, like what did you do in a 40-man raid? If you weren't the tank and you weren't the raid leader and you weren't one of the best healers in your group, you did nothing important. I mean, you could have died and it didn't matter. You know, the raids were literally, I mean, there were fucking 5 mages.
Well, assume that they would be difficult like they are now.
God forbid, like there's like, I mean, okay, every now and then you fuck up and die.
This guy's speaking facts.
It's like now it's a 40 people.
Now you have 3 times as many battle reses. I don't know. I don't see the reason for it. I like having like the feeling that I'm a little more important when it comes to being in the raid, and if I'm one of 40, I'm less important than I am if I'm one of 25. But all the things that you guys said too, which is,
bro, this guy's spitting.
There's not a community that supports 40-man raids anymore. Like,
why is he spitting like that?
25 people.
I think this is like the ISIS of.
See, this guy has CEO energy. Do you know what I mean by that? Have you guys spoken to a CEO of anything? That's what they do. They sit here and listen and let everybody else pop off, and then they just come in with the calm, cool, collected voice, and they just spit.
Cold takes, like it is so off base. It sounds like the person who says like they wish, you know, I mean, so many stupid
do I wish we could do it again? Hell yeah, but it's just not realistic in today's like gaming community.
It wasn't realistic back then because, again, think about it, unless you had a guild, which making guilds is even hard, and talking from the level of us, right, in our community, when we have, you know, 300 people in our community, but getting 20 people, whatever, to show up for raid in and of itself is hard because we aren't the same age we all were when we started playing this game, where we had unlimited free time, right? Like that's gone
more now than we did in college, man.
Oh no, absolutely not. No, I played way more in college.
I can't imagine you playing.
But the point being though is that like we and I say we because I might be the exception to the rule, but like you guys, the technique, you don't have the time to come in and wait 3 hours for us to get 40 people put online and all that nonsense, right? Coordinating 40 people, let alone.
Even getting one healer to get online consistently is.
Looks like he's about to spit again, but yeah, we talked about this a lot. If you talk to a retail player, if anything, they want content to be geared more towards smaller group sizes. If you were to make a new game in 2024, it's not always the best argument as to what WoW would do because it is a game that already exists and has built-in systems and stuff, but you would not make a 20-man raid even. It would be lower, right? And also, part of the issue with 40-mans in WoW is I feel like... Oops, someone just rang my doorbell. People who ask for 40-man raids, I feel like haven't done a 30-man WoW raid in a while. because if you added 30% more people to that, you would just get negative frame rate. It would just be kind of brutal to play. Like the WoW would need like a graphical, like an efficiency upgrade to make that work.
No, I mean, to be honest, like if
what is it? Asmon already said the 40-man thing is not sustainable. It's just his own personal wish of what he would like. He said that in another video, but I mean, the clip that everyone's kind of talking about is these are the things that will like fix the game, or WoW is going down a dark hole if they don't fix these things. And it wasn't like, I would personally like 40-mans. It was like, they need to have 40-man raids. It was pretty, I mean, either way, that doesn't fucking matter. Just one person giving their opinion. He just happens to be really popular. It's more just a conversation starter and a topic point, which these are. That's what
if we came together and we made a guild,
they do be yapping,
and we wanted to get 40 people together, we could do it.
No,
we could do it.
We can get 40 people, but how many of them?
Very small percentage of the WoW community are going to do that.
Yeah, but like, let's say we pulled the top 40 people of the Discord community that we have. How many of them would be also being carried at that point?
So they have a Discord community, and he meant like if we pulled the top 40 and we actually got all of our 40 best players together, that's what he's saying here.
Point 2, right? Like they just want to play the game and join it at their own pace.
Yeah, 30 of them.
Right? we talk about this all the time about, and I'm not going to name names or anything, but like where we're like, okay, I'll name Leo because Leo's a perfect example of a person who.
Okay, Leo's about to catch some strays.
Won't care. Right?
He won't care, okay.
I asked Leo to play WoW with me because Leo and I have been playing WoW since vanilla.
Okay.
And it's one of those things where, like, if Leo were required because we needed 40 people would be upset with me that I'm bringing Leo because Leo just doesn't care about the meters. He doesn't care. He just wants...
Oh, man.
Honestly, the only thing he wants is to be able to hold down the Frostbolt button.
Dude, honestly, though, y'all are about to be like, ha, Leo, but, like, every single one of you has raided with a Leo, and Leo's fucking own. You know what I mean? Like, the guy that, like, doesn't take the game too seriously, doesn't really care about being good, but you like having them around because they're like funny as fuck or they're just a good hang. I'll fucking play with a Leo all day, every day, bro.
I never let go, and it just constantly Frostbolts for him, right? Like that's the engagement
the
that he
ice
wants.
block button.
Yeah, exactly.
He's
doing his ice
triple
block. So
he wants to stand in the right spot and just press the right button.
Leo is catching crazy strays on this podcast, though.
Yeah, and
I can't. 40 people's atrocious.
It's insane. And then think of it from the mythic. Like, how many guilds? I don't know if you guys keep up with it, but there's tons of guilds that are disbanding right now because they can't get a consistent 20-man roster.
Yeah. Let
alone a consistent 20-man roster of people who can do the very challenging mechanics at the top end of the bosses, right?
Yeah, two of the hardest bosses ever in one raid back to back. Took too long to nerf them. The eye level scaling was kind of an issue this patch, and that combined with the 20 people thing was a huge challenge.
So let's break that down really quickly. I think that people want to do it, but there's not, like, I do not care to do the mythic version of the heroic thing I've already been farming with a bunch of pickup people.
Okay.
Yeah.
To get the same item that's 3 eye levels higher or whatever that number is. I just don't care, man. If it was a different raid that you couldn't do because you're not as good as me, or because you didn't go through the painstaking ordeal of creating a guild and being good, that'd be different. If I'm doing, Ice Crown and you just can't get into it because you're not in my guild or because you're just not good enough, that's different than you not doing Mythic Raid because you just chose not to queue up or whatever the hell.
Well,
wait, so his point is I would actually want a Mythic Raid, but I just don't even find it interesting to go do the same version of the boss, just harder to get the exact same item. So he's saying he would actually be more inclined to do it if it was a different raid, like if it would actually drop to different items and stuff like that. Like the different difficulty is actually just a completely... Dude, I kind of fuck with that. A little bit. I mean, I kind of feel that a little bit with Mythic Plus. Like I actually did a lot more Mythic Plus this current season than I do normally, but even then it's only for like a couple weeks. And even then it was mainly just because I wanted to play Demon Hunter. It was the only way to apply yourself to do that. But like I do dungeons a couple times, and like Mythic Plusers don't have this thing, but I have this thing where I'm like, okay, I've done these dungeons on like a 28 or 29 by now, and I could just keep doing the same dungeons over and over again, but I've kind of figured it out. I've figured out where to use my cooldowns and how to live these things, and now it's just doing them on a slightly harder version where things do more damage to you, have random affixes that are sometimes not fun, and require more damage to be done. Like that, I've like seen the dungeon enough where it was like a new dungeon, I would be all for it. So he's kind of saying the same thing. He's like, I've already seen this shit. Like, why would I've already have this item. Like, okay, it's a few item levels higher. Who cares? This is why I like hearing stuff like this, though. Bro, no one I speak to has a perspective like that. I've literally never heard that take, and it kind of makes sense. This is why I think it's a good idea to watch stuff like this. I've never heard someone spit some shit like that.
No, but you said it painstaking.
Let's go.
Is it fun to make that kind of work?
WoW's not fun, man. WoW is rewarding, Because you worked to get what
Wait, sorry, back up. He said WoW's not fun. Okay, back up.
I mean, like, is it fun to make that kind of work?
WoW's
For
not
some
fun,
people.
man.
WoW's not fun, man. Okay.
WoW is rewarding.
Yep.
Because you worked to get what you got,
I
and it's
have fun
different than
doing certain
fun.
things.
I think
Yeah.
it's fun as hell.
Well,
no, I wouldn't say
today's
all
WoW
the
is
time
built
it's not
around
fun.
fun, but like WoW didn't get popular around fun. WoW certainly wasn't like fun to
Wow,
like log in,
in.
wait for an hour to find a
What's he cooking?
person to like walk to the meeting stone and join a group and then go and do it for 3 hours.
You're talking about
it
old
just
WoW,
wasn't.
though, right?
Okay, I think what he's getting at is you never really played WoW because the game was super, super fun. You played it because you needed and wanted the rewards so bad, and you played to be rewarded, and you went through whatever it took and grinded whatever to get those rewards. That actually does make sense. It's actually a generational thing. Like, Classic was much more like this, and there are people who are playing Classic. This is actually one of the biggest divides between retail and Classic, right? It's why I can't play Classic. Like, I play Classic until level 15, and I'm just bored. Because why I love retail WoW is the gameplay. I'm being 100% honest with this. The gameplay of retail WoW in PvE, like how it feels to play these classes, is the best gameplay of any game I've ever played. Like, when you're playing that in PvE, or you're fucking, like, in a dungeon, in a raid, and you're, like, you do that well, it is the fucking GOAT. Like, it's so sick, right? And when I play Classic, I just don't feel that because it's just fucking 20 years old. It's, like, not as good, right? But, like, people who are playing Classic are playing for a totally different reason. They're not primarily attracted to the game because of the gameplay of those classes particularly, right? Like, people like games for different reasons. In Classic, it's all about the rewards. And there's some nostalgia, but, like, it's about the rewards. It's about the grind. It's about, like, you want it to be rewarded rather than having fun. I actually think he's being, like, people are going to take this the wrong way, but I think that's the exact thing he's referring to. And these two players instantly are like, what do you mean? I think WoW is fun. I think a lot of people who currently play retail most like love retail a lot more than Classic, are most likely have a lot more fun playing the game. And I think Classic people are more rewards based. We had a big talk about this the other day on stream, right? About how Blizzard's in an impossible design decision or design position between making things that are rare and feel like they really matter, and that grind and that reward results in something that you care about, and also making things attainable for people and actually able to acquire them. We complained for years from Legion all the way through Shadowlands about how it was so hard to acquire these really cool things they made because Blizzard was like on the fence of trying to create. They're trying to find that balance point of letting you able to access and acquire these things while also making them cool by making them not something you just get for free. And it's like a really, and it's that's when you broaden out that conversation, it's basically Classic versus retail philosophy and mentality. And it's pretty interesting, and that's kind of where he's coming from.
It's just like, nostalgic MMO. Like, it's not fun in the sense that you log in and just have a fucking blast. It's just not how it
I'm sorry, I gotta run that one back.
is.
That got me really good. That fucking got me good.
Nostalgic MMO. Like, it's not fun in the sense that you log in and just have a fucking blast. It's just not how it is. That's Fortnite.
Yeah, I would say on the
Well, it's like Fortnite. I mean, this guy is totally along the lines that there are a lot of people who feel this way, right? And I think retail is kind of where it is, but like because the players have told them that, right? Every time Blizzard in retail currently inched towards this guy's argument, they were met with massive negativity. How do they keep fucking up the acquisition of these things? Why don't you just give us a vendor for legendaries? Why couldn't we just get our corruptions at the start, right? That is a totally different competing philosophy with how this guy wants the game made, how Classic was made, how Blizzard used to make the game, and the middle ground between those two things that retail is currently trying to achieve. We talked about this on the podcast this week. It's kind of impossible to appease both crowds. Clearly, they both exist. In retail, it's majorly dominated by the one that isn't this guy. But it is, MMO design philosophy is super interesting. Old school MMOs are not like this at all currently.
end of it though, like to wrap up this, because really it's just like we all agree it's a
Yeah, we all
horrible
agree.
thing.
It's
we don't
insane.
like it.
It's insane.
That being said, I would say if they wanted to put in that there is a 40-man raids you can do, and they want to put it in, and you can do it, then go ahead and put it in. I don't think that
No
should
one
be
would
what
do
we
it.
all do.
No one would do it.
People would do it. I mean, I'm trying to think, like, if it was like a new raid that was 40-man only, people would absolutely do it. Whether it would be good or not would just have to wait. Like I said, I just have so many issues. I can't imagine 40-man content being cool and interesting and not just like mechanic vomit or just easy as fuck, and then like what's the point, you know? It'd just be chill content that people would do. In fact, it could be aimed at more of the casual audience with really cool rewards, and maybe people would really like it. But they've been kind of phrasing 40 man as like an ultra mythic thing, where I feel like the only way 40 man would be successful is it was aimed at not being challenging, because I just don't think you can make challenging 40 man content without it being a massive mess, right? It would be aimed at that lower level. It'd be like an LFR raid, but like people could really enjoy that, right? Yeah.
That's my guarantee.
Like,
if it was
Yeah, actually, there's something like that. Isn't there something like this in Final Fantasy? Yeah, Alliance raids. They have these like but they're like not super hard, right? Because again, you can't really make. They're not as hard as like harder level Savage or Ultimate things, because they have to be like they're the world where you're making hard 40-man content is you're getting the worst of both worlds. But I actually think like easy, chill 40-man content could actually go pretty hard for casuals, honestly. And I don't think it would matter to me either, because it wouldn't really affect me. I guess you could make the argument of like, oh well, they're spending time making content that I don't like, therefore they're not making the game that I want, which is this super weird argument that everyone could make all the time, because this game is so fragmented that if you make content for any particular game mode, PvP, Mythic Plus, rating, you're already, in quotes, alienating 70% of the player base, and more than half of the player base would be like, why aren't you making this thing for me? They made Plunderstorm. People were like, I just don't like them making Plunderstorm because it took away from content that I like. Some people fucking love Plunder. A lot of people fucking love Plunderstorm. A lot of people hate Plunderstorm. Same thing with that. If they like, we're like, hey, you know what? We're not going to do a lot of Mythic Plus stuff this patch or whatever, but like we're going to do like some extra rating shit. Mythic Plusers are probably like, yo, this fucking sucks. I wish they would spend more time making the stuff that I want, you know? And then your argument basically turns into, I wish they had infinite employees and made crazy content for everybody. But again, I think they're just stuck between a rock and a hard place, man. Like WoW devs are just trying to make a game pretty good for everyone, but there's so many people that want different things that they can't make something truly amazing for any particular party without feeling like they're alienating the rest of the player base.
Different raid, and it wasn't the same, like a bigger version of the same thing I'm doing with the same item but a bigger level.
No, think about it this way. No, I want to go back to his other point.
I would do
He said it would be as...
Wait, Ultimate Mythic 40-man. Echo and Liquid have to combine 2 20-man groups and coordinate to kill the hardest content the devs can put out. Interesting. Wow, would that be a fucking clown show, I think. It would be sick. It would be sick in like a perfect world. I just think as like a charity event or something, that sounds like it'd be fun to watch. It'd be more like, who are you actually creating that content for kind of thing. But yeah, it would be like a Tournament Realm charity event thing. It wouldn't be like live content. I wonder how our 2 guilds would work raiding together. There'd be a lot of owners in there, but also like we just do things very differently. It would be a good BlizzCon idea, actually.
Hard as hard mode in Ulduar, which at the time, Ulduar hard...
That would be the weirdest vibes. It would only be the weirdest vibes if it was super try-hard. If it was like a BlizzCon thing, I think people, they would be fine, yeah.
Mode was like, it took 3 weeks for them to get, no light in the darkness, whatever. And I'm telling you, getting 40 people to do that, like the highest end guilds would not even bother.
But it would give the community something to be like, man, I wish I could do that.
But no one would.
Who cares if the high end group wouldn't do it?
Dude, so like it's sitting there going, well, I wish we could do it, but
he's wrong about that. Him saying that like no matter what, if you're making a 40-man, no one would do it. That's not true. I think if they made like pretty much any content in this game, people would do it. I don't think 40-man content, like the argument of 40-man's replacing Mythic or something, that's where it's like, okay, that's just a fucking terrible idea. Right, if anything, you would go lower on the numbers. But the whole, like, they're making an extra raid and it's 40-man only, I don't get the idea that just no one would do that. I just don't think that's true. People would definitely do it.
No one's doing it, so why is anyone wishing to do it? Because no one is doing it.
Nah, they would do it. He's wrong about that.
I guess, for me, I don't want them to change the raids how it are. But I'm just saying, if they put it in, I don't care. It's just like...
Yeah, same.
I don't know anyone in MDL that is super into doing pet battles. But it's in there.
And people do
it.
Yeah. Oh, hey.
But, like, if they have it in there, it doesn't affect me because I choose not to do it.
I guess if I could close out my arguing statement.
Let's go, CEO.
Go ahead, bro.
Let's go.
I think, dude, that there's a lot of minor stuff like that in the game that's there for the everybody player.
Yeah.
And that's cool. But the MMO wasn't built around that, and I feel like you shouldn't be...
Wait.
I think, dude, that there's a lot of minor stuff like that in the game.
There's a lot of minor stuff like that in the game.
And it's there for the everybody player.
And it's there for the everybody player.
And that's cool. But the MMO wasn't built around that. And
isn't the MMO exactly built around that?
I feel like you shouldn't be catering the MMO to like, oh, every single person is a raider. It's just not how it is.
That's not what they're doing though.
Not every person needs to be a raider. Not every person wants to be a raider. Like if I'm the 40-man raid person, now I'm not saying we need to bring back 40-man raids in general, but if they released one, I think it should be different. I think it should be super.
Oh, okay. The MMO isn't built around stuff like pet battles, I think he's saying. But then he conflated that to raiding. I think when WoW first came out, it was built around the fact that everyone was a raider, and he was right. And they were right? Like everyone raided in WoW. That's just what you did. It was only like way later in WoW's lifetime. And it's probably just the issue of any game that's probably out for 20 years where things got segmented and people started playing the game for specific parts of it instead of all of it.
Rewarding. I think it would be really cool. Even if I never got to see this stuff, I think it'd be cool to know that like there's some badasses out there that are doing it, that are like MMO, you know.
I'm sorry to hold on to this thought, but
MMO neckbeard. Wait, this is still so strange that their 40-man argument has centered, and it's so different than what I would ever expect. Their 40-man argument is clearly so centered around the content being really fucking hard. Like, I guess they're kind of going off of her saying it was going to be ultra mythic earlier, but like I really feel like that's, from a starting point, completely would never happen, completely unrealistic, makes no sense. But like, I think all of their arguments would align more with each other if they just accepted it as like an easier thing, which is like, literally Final Fantasy does that, and I think it would work in WoW too.
Like but you're saying that not to no rating, it'd be like you're saying make a different raid for these people, right?
Yeah, I'm not
who are these people? But by the way, I think these people, I think they're talking about high-end raiders just from where this conversation has gone. I just want to like very clearly point out that absolutely none of us want a new raid that is 40-man that is designed for the high-end players. That sounds like a fucking nightmare. And that's like also going towards the like making the game for like the smaller percentage of people, which that argument gets thrown out a lot, and it's always coming from a place that doesn't make sense. But well, not always. Like Tindril and Fyrak literally were, and then they didn't nerf them fast enough. But like usually it's applied to more things than just that. But that's not something we want.
No, but think of it this way though, because your point is that like, okay, well, it'll be something to strive for, but the Hall of Fame, which is 100 guilds killing the final boss, right,
yeah,
on Mythic. This season,
nobody cares about Mythic versus Heroes. My point.
They do.
Nobody cares about Mythic versus. I think that's true. Like the whole like broad perspective, like I don't care about doing Mythic or Heroic is pretty true. Like there are people who care about getting the Hall of Fame or whatever, but I think like broad perspective of WoW, especially from like the camp this guy would come from. Well, let's let him cook more on that.
Mythic. This season,
nobody cares about Mythic versus Heroes. My point.
They do.
It's the same thing. No, they don't.
No, but that's my point. You said it's the same thing. And only 200 people.
Money for a living.
No.
Okay, this guy started out cooking. I don't know what the fuck this guy's cooking now. people don't care about Heroic or Mythic at all. And then when he got pushed back on it, he said, "Well, yeah, maybe because people are streamers and shit."
No. Max needs to do that, but not everyone. Whoa.
Right? Like, whoa. Hold. Wait, back up.
That's my point. You said it's the same thing. And only 200 people.
Money for a living.
No. Max needs to do that, but not everyone, right? Like, I mean, hell, half of the.
What do you mean I have to do hard because I'm a streamer? I only do things I want to do. I stream. Bro, if I'm probably not even playing Season 4 raids. Like, I'm not even gonna fucking stream that shit. It's just completely uninteresting, and that would be the exact argument, right? Oh, I have to do that because I'm a streamer.
People in Liquid don't even have a stream.
Wait, what?
No. Max needs to do that, but not everyone, right? Like, I mean, hell, half of the people in Liquid don't even have a stream.
True.
On Twitch.
Yeah, I mean, his basically argument to this is him saying that no one cares about Heroic versus Mythic, only fucking stupid streamers do, and he's like, yeah, well, maybe some streamers do, but like Liquid doesn't even have a ton of streamers in them. Like, why are they doing it, right?
Right.
And then, yeah, let's see.
And my point.
They get paid to be in Liquid, bro.
Oh my god. Argument. I'm not even gonna go into that.
Anyways, my point.
I just love the like people's idea of like being in Liquid or Echo, which is like you play this game for a long time, make no money doing it, only pay to make money doing it. And then now like sponsors care about you and they give you some money and stuff. I like the idea that like it's like working a 9-to-5 job. Like no one actually likes WoW. No one. It's just like you just log in and fucking put in your hours and fucking clock out and go home. Like I'm only doing this because I'm getting paid. Like, fuck yeah, man.
Though that if you made a separate like okay, so let's say Ulduar was released, hard mode Ulduar, right? 40-man raid. It's its own tier.
25, wasn't it?
Max, roll it back and listen to his response. Wait, what did he say?
My point. I mean, hell, half of the people in Liquid don't even have a stream on Twitch, right? And my point.
They get paid to be in Liquid, bro.
Anyway.
Bro, he hits him with a sigh into an at ease. That is an insane fucking clapback. 1 second. Look at this.
And my
point. They get paid to be in Liquid, bro.
Look at this. Up here, top right. Holy fuck. Wait, he said pennies? Oh, he said pennies. Bro, he's coming at our bread.
Anyways, my point is though that if you made a separate man, like, okay, so let's say.
Oh, I thought he was telling him at ease, but actually we were the ones getting shit on. That's crazy.
Ulduar was released. Hard
this
mode
boy's
Ulduar,
pocket
right?
watching.
40-man raid. It's its own
Which was
tier.
a 25, wasn't it?
It had a 10 and 25. Yeah. It's a 40-man raid. It's hard mode. You know, I mean,
we actually don't even pay our players money anymore, right? It was pennies for a while. So what we do is we give them McDonald's franchises. So like if we win a race, for example, no one makes any money, but you get your own McDonald's franchise in like Iowa or something, and then you just have to figure it out. Like you are responsible for their success. It could go south if you don't pay attention to it. It's kind of like giving someone a bird for a gift. Like, hey man, just take care of this for the next 80 years. That's pretty much what we do.
And you're not having, but because let's say 10 guilds clear it, right? Because it's so flipping hard. That's 400 people. That is, and we've seen the sub numbers is hovering around 7 million, right? Like that's talking a lot of resources to make another raid that is very hard, that not even the 0.1% would see. It'd be the 0.01% would see.
Yeah.
That's because you guys have phrased this argument wrong from the beginning. I'll just state it one more time. The only world where they make a 40-man, which I actually think could actually be cool if it was its own separate thing and not just a difficulty of the current raid that's out, but a different raid. Like 0.7 patch, new 40-man comes out with some new rewards. And the thing is, it would be geared and targeted towards the casual player base. And I think it would actually work. It would never be a hard raid. That would be... In fact, I think if they were going to make extra content that was supposed to be extra challenging, I actually think it would be cool for them to actually drop it to 10-man, right? Because that actually works with how the player base would currently work. Here's how you can make really hard content that isn't just geared towards like the high level. Like you release your normal mythic raid, and then you release 10.2.5 or 2.6, 2.7 content, whatever, and then it's... The 10-man works so much better for that specifically because some guilds are still going to be progressing, but maybe 10 people have some time over the weekend and they want to make their own group for this thing, right? Like, why did Crucible of Storms fail so hard, right? Not only was it really hard, but people were still clearing Jaina. No one could even do it. Jaina had better rewards, right? Like, why do this thing? Okay, make it a smaller group size. You can dabble in that, see how people like that. It's an experiment, and you can actually still keep your main guild together that's progressing this other thing, and you can have a smaller group do something else, right? So pretty much, I think how Blizzard would actually approach this, they're arguing about the wrong thing. How Blizzard would approach this is the total opposite. They're making it a high-level 40-man thing, and that's just nonsense.
Take this, though. My original point was answer no. I don't think I want every raid to be 40-man. Like, that is dumb.
It's ass.
But I think it'd be really cool if they had, like, a 3-boss, 4-boss, super sick, hard-as-fuck raid that's 40-man.
Nah.
And even if I didn't see it, the fact that it's there and that other people are doing it and I see them wearing shit that I can't get, that's cool. And that's kind of what is MMO about the game. I don't...
that is a good point. Forget about the hard 40-man thing. He's just saying, like, if other people have things I don't want, or other things that I don't have because I'm not doing it, that's okay. I wish more people just felt that way about things.
Like, dude...
What if they made the items in Mythic versus Heroic be different items?
Different items? Yeah, that'd be cool.
Dude, I think that's a take I've never heard before, but I kind of fuck with that. I kind of like that idea. I mean, maybe the most extreme version of that idea is that there is a heroic raid and a mythic raid, and they are literally two different raids, not just a version of the raid that's harder. I mean, obviously, that's just a lot more work for Blizzard, but I kind of like that. Because I think, like, when you're making these bosses, a lot of the times you design a heroic boss, and then you find a way to make it mythic. And I think it's pretty obvious in the design process which bosses are like that. And there are bosses that are made with the mythic version as, like, the initial concept when that designer made it. And then they're like, okay, how do we make this heroic, right? Do you start from the bottom up, or do you start from the top down? You don't have to do that if you're actually making completely separate raids, right? And one is supposed to be harder, so you actually approach every single boss design with that harder thing in mind, and it would probably just make better content for each mode too. Kind of fuck with it.
Solve that problem for me. Like, I would see it.
The problem is just more work, right? Is it what's more work? Making one raid, making it on heroic, and then just making each one have a few more mechanics and go on mythic, or making two different raids with totally different art styles, completely different bosses from the ground up. I mean, it's probably twice as much work, if not like a little less than that, right? So
different items with like flavor text and like things that like
just let's say completely different, like just better and different.
Shade different, just a totally different item. But I think that having a different raid for that is even cooler than just like doing the same
I'd
encounter.
be upset that I couldn't see the raid. I'd want to see it, and I'd be like, oh, that's so disappointing. I can't.
Well,
do
that's you, and then maybe you wouldn't, maybe you wouldn't. You know.
All right, let's move on to the next one.
This guy's crazy. I either completely disagree with this guy or he's spitting. Like, there's no in between. I fucking love it, bro.
Be like,
insane podcast guy.
Can't do 40 man.
All right,
like
next one was we'll just do the add-on one. All add-ons removed, no exception.
I'm really interested in this because obviously it's like it's a Pandora's box thing. It's been opened. And if you're designing a new game, whether you have add-ons versus whether you completely remove it full stop from this one has its... I think here's where I stand on this. I've answered this recently on a podcast. I'm right there with everyone that in-combat add-ons are trash, should be removed. And I don't know. I think everyone's kind of a fan of that as far as I can tell. Like, you could just make so much better content if those didn't exist. And there's so many wrong takes about arms races and things like that and the race world first and add-ons and all those things that always are weird. But just in general, I'm against that. I think one thing that's great about WoW is that you can just change your add-ons. You can change your UI. You can have a transmog add-on. There's like WoW is made better, especially for the more casual gamer, which is why I'm really interested in seeing, and especially accessibility. Some people need things like rotation helpers and things like that. And, you know, like the whole add-on argument, guys, we would fucking love to do raids with no add-ons. Like the add-ons and weak ore packages that you guys use that we make, we use those to make us, which would be 95% able to YOLO it. We can do it at 98% efficiency, and that makes it worth to use the weak aura. But like, it's there to minorly benefit us, but it majorly benefits people the lower down the guild ladder you go, right? The more things like that are like a crutch. We would fucking get rid of that shit instantly. I'm fucking hard down. Right? So for some people, they need that for accessibility reasons, but whatever. I would be cool with them making content that had that gone. But I think the idea of just removing all add-ons with no exceptions, my personal opinion, is nonsense. I think UI customization is excellent. I think quality of life add-ons are awesome. I actually would go as far as to say I think pretty much fucking any game would be better with those kind of add-ons, but not the fight add-ons. And usually people's rebuttal against that is like, bro, imagine you're playing like Dark Souls and you just have a weak aura that makes the boss easier. Yeah, but like, first of all, you could choose to have that or not. Second, I'm not advocating for those add-ons. I think those kind of add-ons are deeply problematic. Like an add-on in League of Legends that showed your opponent's cooldowns and when they've used things, so you can like, yeah, that's fucking ass. That's how it is in PvP right now, and wow, that's bad. I don't want any of that shit. But the issue is the way that like the API is, like, it's kind of hard to do one without the other. So the whole like scorched earth, get rid of all of them thing is to get rid of that, and I think it would be a net negative. I think a lot of people would quit the game. But you guys have heard my take on this before. Let's hear their 4 takes and see where they stand on this.
Okay, so...
Oh yeah, and the other thing, I forgot one thing. It's like, oh, I feel like I can't just start playing WoW. I feel like I have to have add-ons without starting it. I only think that applies to like in-fight add-ons. You could use the base default classic UI and be sick at this game. There are people in my guild who have default friendly nameplates on and friendly names, literally fucking just everything default, and they're insane, right? So pretty much all of this, I'm pretty much against all of the add-ons that you feel like you have to install to be able to play the game. But I think there's a lot less of those than people think. And you're arguing to remove a ton of add-ons that are just kind of good if you want them.
I partly agree. I don't like all the add-ons, and I'm okay the ones that directly affect how things go in raid compared to quality of life would be removed.
So he's saying Scorched Earth. I think, yes, there are good add-ons, but removing those would be good for a benefit of removing the ones in raid.
Like okay, so
if weak auras was gone.
Yeah, so and it's not a weak. I'd even argue. Okay, hold on. So let's eliminate everything from the no exception rule. We all agree is a bad take, right? Okay.
100%.
Oh, okay. So it looks like they all agree that the eliminate all add-ons with no exceptions. So it looks like they're gonna go and aim more towards just the problematic ones.
Tech and scrap.
I think it's an interesting take. I don't know about bad. I wouldn't like it personally, but for the community, it might be good.
I think, but that means like,
removing
is gone.
Yeah, like.
I think the people who would gain the most from add-ons being gone are the raiding and PvP community. Like PvP has become like, you know, PvPers generally don't like the weak aura thing, like being able to see all your opponents like timers on their stuns coming up and DRs and all that shit is like super insane. And the raiding community feels like that raiding could just be better without that stuff, and I think that's pretty true. But I think the like broader casual community that doesn't need add-ons to do raid, or maybe doesn't even do raid at all and probably doesn't PvP. I think those people fucking love add-ons, and their add-ons don't affect anyone else negatively in any way. And I think removing those people's add-ons would, like, you talk about like who are the people you hear from in WoW, like the two largest opinions you hear in WoW are from relatively smaller groups of people. There's like the high-level players, again, relatively small, very loud, a lot of streams on Twitter. And then you have like the people who stop playing WoW but still want to tell you why they stopped playing WoW, and they comment on all the changes that WoW makes for years. And those people, their opinions, they don't even fucking play the game, and they're probably not coming back if Blizzard made whatever ridiculous changes they suggested, right? But relatively small, actually pretty large group of people, but as far as current player base, it represents nobody, right? And then you have this massive group of people that play WoW that probably don't tweet or comment on forums or do anything, and they just log into WoW and they just fucking, whenever they can during the week, they have fun and they log off. I think if you just removed add-ons from those people that they've had for 10 years that have nothing to do with combat, they would fucking hate that. They would hate that. Those add-ons that they choose to have just objectively help them at whatever they're trying to do, or they have like a better look at their game, or like they have a fucking rare finder, those people would fucking hate this, right? And hopefully some people in this conversation, I think, hopefully represent those people.
Or removing removing the Peggle add-on, or removing the add-on that helps you manage your mounts better.
Details.
Again, there's stuff that's
Everyone-
fundamentally missing from the game that you need to play it, right?
Like what?
Details.
You don't
Like
need it.
details.
You
Oh,
don't.
that's a spicy one. Some people would argue you don't need a damage meter in the game, and that actually damage meters do. So like people who damage meters are their personality are brutal in every game. But there's a lot of, and I wonder if they'll bring this up, there's a lot of like people who use details as a way to like make themselves better. They're like, oh, I'm playing with someone who's doing more damage than me. I want to see what they're doing. Maybe that can make me better. Some people aren't like that. Some people don't want to see if they're top or bottom damage. They just want to play the game, right? So some people use it for personal improvement. But I feel like the strawman argument here is like, oh, well, if you're a fan of details, you're just like a parse lord, and you're just one of those super... Admittedly, those people are super insufferable, right? But I think there's a completely reasonable reason to play with details in the game, and that has wide-ranging benefits. The question is, if you would remove add-ons, would Blizzard add one into the game? I think that's really interesting. I think 10 years ago they would. I'd be interested to know if they did it now.
Details to play the game.
No, you do, because arguably you do, because like if you're not hitting a certain threshold, you wouldn't know why.
So he's saying details isn't needed in the game, and all the rest of them are. Interesting.
You need to know what the threshold is and why you're not.
If you're doing a patchwork fight, well,
you know how you usually tell that person's dead.
I think,
Details, I feel like, is an important part of the enjoyment of the game. I'll go back to what I've been going back to repeatedly, is that like you're gatekeeping content. Like there's people who need what the hell is the Heckili or something to compete.
Weak cores, it's the exact same thing. Anything that tells you what to do.
There's people who need that, right? Like who they want to play the game, they want to raid, and they feel like they need that to compete, and that's fine because you don't need it.
They don't need it. That's the problem.
Well, hold on though. Okay.
No, but if they want to play at a heroic level, and it's like they need the game to tell them what to play. Like think about like.
But then you could argue you don't actually, if you need add-ons to play at a certain level, you don't actually need to play at that level. Not everyone needs to do every difficulty.
I don't want to say Leo, but
no, I'll give myself an example.
Dude, Leo catching more insane strays.
People, you know.
I'll give myself an example, right?
Just want to play.
I want to be.
What a bad day to be Leo,
I want to
bro.
raid, right? But if I don't have the timers there, I'm dead in the water, right?
But
okay, so clearly the game is designed, and DBM, by the way, DBM's been around since like the beginning of Classic, right? Everyone knows what DBM looks like. If there's no DBM, things are a lot more visual and obvious. When a boss is about to do a mechanic, he'll have a yell box where he's going to do something. You're assuming that with no DBM, which, you know, is a pretty reasonable thing to say you wouldn't want. No DBM, no bigwigs. The raids look different because of that. The raids look the way they do because they know that there's a pretty high chance that you have those bars on your screen, which is, I would argue that's bad, right? Things would be much more visual and obvious when they are happening or about to happen in game if there was no add-on like that.
So timers. I feel if you're talking about stuff that like is for people, I'm talking about for people who like it's incredibly hard to get into the game.
Wait, what is it? No add-ons add higher difficulty. It's not a bad thing to be honest. Well, you could argue that like I think the difficulty would probably be the same because like if there were no add-ons for most people, they would not like they would obviously tune the things down. It would be the same relative difficulty right now of you having add-ons and doing raids versus them removing add-ons and making the new raids, which would obviously not, you know what I'm saying? It would basically feel the same. Sounds fun though. I'm fucking down. Let's get it.
Right? Like you've never.
What is it? You're assuming they'd tune it down. What if they don't? I mean, they've talked about this before. They know they would have to do that. It would maybe take like a season of like adjusting to it, right? Because I think it's like such a massive step if you were to remove those things. But I mean, they'd eventually get it. Yeah.
Argue though the add-ons are the reason why though.
Yeah.
I can get behind that argument. Yeah.
If you take the 3 points combined, if you say like, oh, we're going to reduce the skills to close to 10 abilities, if we're going to reduce, you know, the add-ons and just remove that so no one has an advantage. So regarding like details is great. Everyone loves it for the fact that like, oh, I can maximize things. I think it's got
not
like
just for
a
that.
side, like a backstory to it. It's really just, it's intoxicating to the community. It's not a good thing when you get kicked from a group because, oh, your DPS is shit. Like it'd be nice to have like maybe a details recap just for me about just my performance.
Yeah.
And so I can improve. Well, yeah, but that doesn't prevent everyone else from seeing my performance amongst them.
I mean, that'd be fine. A lot of people feel that way, by the way. So I know some of you guys are going to have this reaction where you're like, well, just don't be fucking shit then. You just have to understand you come from a completely different position than this guy. Some of you guys literally, whether you realize it or not, play the game because details meter exists, right? And there's a vast majority of the people in the game don't do that. There's a very normal way to look at this. This is just the way that a lot of people in the game look at it. They want to see their damage, they want to improve, but they don't want to have to constantly be thinking about doing enough or whatever. It just like takes away from their enjoyment of the game. Again, you're not going to see a lot of opinions like that from people who play this game a lot and stream it because they play for different reasons. But I think a lot of he's speaking for a lot of people right now. I'm going to rewind it a little bit.
Just for me, about just my performance. And so I can improve. Well, yeah, but that doesn't prevent everyone else from seeing my performance amongst the group.
Yeah.
And, you know, as a competitive person, I like to see those numbers because I like to see like, oh, I did a shit ton of damage or whatever. But from a community perspective, like if I'm a newcomer, it sucks to be at the bottom of that number list every time.
So I guess, Scrap, I put it this way.
But also like a way to get better. But some people don't care about getting better, right? But some people, like, even if they don't play games super seriously, want to, like, keep getting better. And they're like, oh, I did something better here. Looks over at damage meter, sees reward for you playing better. And you're like, okay, that feels great, you know?
Would you want to play Dark Souls if you had a bunch of add-ons that made it easier for you?
The thing
Terrible argument.
is that it's...
This is a ridiculous... No one is making this argument. This is a... classic straw man.
If that made my enjoyment of the game better, why shouldn't I have it?
Well, okay, hold on. I want to separate because add-ons obviously is a broad stroke.
So the thing is that
people make this all the time. I literally said that someone's gonna say this earlier. Like people make this. This is like one of the most common retail comebacks or retail add-on things. Is they're like they bring up other games. Dark Souls, Elden Ring. Usually it's Elden Ring. Is a like popular game that a lot of people who play WoW play. And it's just like, dude, no one is saying that that's good, right?
No, you hold on. Let me respond to him. Because the thing is that you have the choice.
Oh shit.
I want to separate.
She's saying back the fuck up and give me space.
Separate, because add-ons obviously is a broad stroke.
So the thing is that you have the choice. No, you hold on. Let me respond to him.
Let's fucking go. Shut up, bitch. Yeah, let's go.
Because the thing is that you have the choice. Like, for example, I play with very light add-ons on WoW. That's how I prefer to play. Like, 2 weak auras, details, deadly boss mods. Like, that's it. Like, I don't have a lot of weak
deadly
auras.
boss mods, would you want to play without it?
I can play without it. Like, totally comfortable. Like, if it doesn't update, I'm fine without it. Like, honestly, a lot of the stuff in the game, like, there's visuals, there's sound effects, there's things. You do not need it. But I like it because it's like, if I'm totally zoned out, it tells me, like, to do stuff or whatever. I like it. Now, if that was for Dark Souls, if I found out there was something that's like, oh, this... I like it more, you know, it's all about my enjoyment of the game. With a PvE experience, if you enjoy the game more when you're being told
this is some major cope. Bro, I used to think this is some major cope, but then I would mention that during testing, and Sang and THD will always be like, I knew this mechanic was coming before other people because there was some random sound effect in the files that plays when it goes off, or some random boss line. There are people in Liquid that basically ignore their timers and use boss yell lines and sound effects to know when things are happening. It's actually true. WoW sounds are kind of OP.
Depressed, you're playing Guitar Hero or whatever. Who's to say you can't do that, right? Like, that's how you enjoy the game.
Well, and I think
in the game.
So let's land on DBM, right? Because I'd even argue weak auras. While okay, I'm gonna do my side on weak auras real quick. Weak auras is definitely part of the problem because people will use weak auras to effectively solve the let's think of the boss, the Among Us boss in the jailer area, whatever. I can't remember that place.
Even people that are pro weak auras admit that when you have something like Lords of Dread Among Us mechanic and you have weak auras solve it, that's fucking lame and bad. There's not a lot of people that are like, yes, you know, no one wants that.
Yeah.
Like, we needed the weak aura to tell us because everyone was just like...
Because the game didn't do a good enough job of telling
Maybe, you could argue that, but...
I would argue that.
I love
100%.
the idea of what they were trying to
scenario,
go for, right? But like, maybe they didn't get across the finish line, sure. The point is that we needed a weak aura there. I didn't like that, and I think we can all agree, like, we wish it wasn't that way.
Frank, you know me, like, if there's a weak aura that feels required, like for that Fury set where it's like, you know, there's some mathematical equation that plays that like at this level of this combination of your buffs, it goes over this threshold, that's when it becomes more of a benefit to press this button over that button.
Yeah.
And the legendary or the 4 set relied on you doing that correctly. So, and that was horseshit in my opinion. Like the game should be telling you everything.
I'm unsure of what she's talking about. She mentioned Fury, so I'm assuming she's talking about Fury Warrior. Is there a Fury Warrior tier set that required an add-on to tell you when to press a certain button over another? That's fucking ass, if that's true. Season 2 bonus? Okay, but like, maybe this is like if weak auras in the game, things like that are different, but like, couldn't you just make that button light up when that's true in-game, rather than... You could design that in so many different ways that doesn't... Like, that's not a weak aura problem, that's a set design problem. Or a in-game visual problem. But you could make the argument that because weak auras exist, they didn't change that, but I kind of doubt that.
You need to know.
Yeah, no, I think we all agree on that, right?
We agree that the game should be telling you what you need to know. You shouldn't need any add-ons to play the game and be successful at it. However, if people want,
She's kind of spitting, chat.
Help with that, like accessibility, why shouldn't you have it?
Well, and I think for the sake of
chat, she cooked. I mean, she's cooking. That's it.
Argument, let's say there was like an accessibility mode where, because I agree with you, like, you know, let's just say I'm blind and I need weak auras to tell me X, Y, and Z.
It's actually making it less accessible.
Games like this.
Yeah, it's...
Yeah, I think, okay, and to Mike's point, right, like, the DBM side of it, having to download add-ons, I mean, the add-ons installation isn't that straightforward. It's not like you go to the Blizzard store or whatever and just say, yeah, I want this. You have to, like, download a second app. You don't even know if it's trustworthy, yada, 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 right?
Ideally, the game...
You think it is, it isn't.
Yeah.
Bro, hasn't the add-on game been kind of like shady too? Like there's been multiple companies that have tried to capture the add-on market and like monetize it, and then they like were like, oh yeah, it's like money for the add-on creators or whatever, but like they were all just like pocketing that shit. And then like Wago as well, like there was this website for weak auras, and then like that got bought, and like now it's like fucking embedded and shit. Like we got some shady business going on. That stare? Wait, what stare? Bro! Oh my god! Look at his fucking face! Oh my god! What a pause! What a pause! Look at him! That is bro, that's the thumbnail. That's actually the thumbnail. Bro, he looks on cloud 9 too, top right. Holy moly.
Ideally, the game would require no add-ons. I would love a built-in
wait, you guys are saying Leo the CEO. Bro, that's not Leo. The guy that they keep slandering is some guy they play with that's not here to defend himself. It's crazy. I wonder if they're going to do it again.
Meter, right? I would love more customization with your UI. Like adding that in this last expansion was great. But like my weak auras are like very minor tweaks to the UI, right? Like there's a buff that I need to keep track of, and it's normally up here in the top right, and I have a weak aura that just puts it here, you know?
Yeah.
So like that should be something I have access to without an add-on. Like I should be able to move anything around my screen I want.
Facts.
I enjoy LV. Like I use LVUI because I think it looks better than classic UI. I
use the
talked with this about
classic
Shiny
UI.
earlier. It's fine, whatever. It's your thing.
Yeah.
I don't prefer it. I like the LVUI look. I like the customization. I like the fonts I get to pick, all that. There are 0 other games that I play that have, you know, 50 add-ons in it that I update every time I launch the game.
Yeah.
0. And I feel like it's both a crutch to the developer, you know,
he's
in
back
saying,
to
let
spitting.
the community
He's
build
back
the game
to spitting,
for us
bro.
and make it easier and you know, customizable. That's
he keeps
a good
taking
thing
turns
for them, but also it's like it's hurting because like
again, true. I'll let him finish take. True, but also, how many other games do you play with 7 million subscribers that that are 20 years old?
we just talked about, like the newcomers to the game, they don't have these add-ons, and now they're at a disadvantage to the people that do. And you know, you think about what you were playing, that
20-year-old
Pharaoh's
MMOs.
game. What was that? Prince of Egypt game you were playing, Richard? Prince of Persia. You know, all these games are choreographed. We just don't know what the choreograph is because we have add-ons. Like the game is choreographed out. It's there are markings, there are
Not
scripts,
always. Not always. They could do a better job on some of them.
No, I think you're right. Technique is that they need to look at what add-ons like that 70 to 90% of the community have and just integrate those.
Well,
I think they have slowly like LVUI.
Exactly.
But again, going back to DBM,
I mean, even like the edit mode in Dragonflight has been a great step towards that, and maybe it is like a step in them kind of limiting add-on functionality at some point. The thing is edit mode is still missing some major things. What is like the main thing that weak auras can do that edit mode can't do well at all yet? I really think it's the ability to blacklist, whitelist, move, and resize buffs and debuffs. I swear it's that. Like that if they can get that in game, it would completely remove the need for weak auras for so many people. One that need is such a strong word, but like it is great to be able to do that. It's not bad. You could not argue that that's bad. It's just good, right? Edit mode just has to get a lot better, but I'm glad they're doing it in the first place.
DBM's the one that I think is the offender, and weak auras by proxy of the idea of what you can do.
DBM, I think details, man. Like from like a raid leading perspective, I like details. From an individual perspective, I don't think it's good for the community.
I can understand that point because obviously it could be toxic.
It is toxic,
man.
I feel like as a DPS, I played Final Fantasy, for example, 14, and there's no support for any kind of damage meter, and that
there's a lot of people who play Final Fantasy with a damage meter, but yeah,
I lose motivation in that situation.
Yeah, I think.
But she's saying without it, she loses
personal
motivation.
Damage to see that, hey, I'm getting better than myself is one thing, but to see the whole group.
Final Fantasy is weird. Final Fantasy doesn't have any official support for add-ons, mainly because it's a console game and you can't get them on consoles, so to keep it on the same playing field. But because of that, they use like crazy third-party overlays, and there's some that are like frowned upon, but like I don't think it's frowned upon in that game to have a damage meter as long as you're not shitting on other people because of it. It's like, as far as I can tell, it was pretty common with the people that I played with in that game. But
to know that
her point still stands though, where it's like, in her opinion, playing Final Fantasy kind of left a lot to be desired because she wanted to see how much damage she was doing.
I'm last on that list or first on that list.
Well, there's also like, but I want to be able to see, like, for example, if I get in a group with like a survival hunter who's like mega pumping, I want to be able to look at what they're doing better than me, so I have something to aspire to, right?
You do, but what if like 10 other nerds are just trying to play the game and they just suck? I don't know.
True. Bro. This is why I want to listen to this video. He's exactly right. Those people are never like spoken up for. You can make arguments against it, but like the reality is people fucking feel that way, and they attribute details to the problem. There are a large percentage of the WoW population who feel that way. Then they suck. Amen. All right, can we all just, a lot of people in here, it's a little echo chambery with that kind of stuff. It's fine to have those kind of opinions, but like just know that you probably surround yourself that think like that, and there's and also it's like totally normal and okay to play this game and not want to be sick at it. Really any game, but like I guess WoW, that kind of gets lost in the. In fact, I would argue that most people that play WoW, the people who pay, or most of those 7 million subs they have, don't give a fuck about being good at this game at all. They're just trying to game. Also, if you're saying that, you probably fucking suck too. Keeping it a buck.
I get that. I think what my question is more like and details. I can get it. It's a double-edged sword, and all the other beautification UI things. Again, I don't think that's ultimately. Like the argument Asmon would making on that part of those is that it makes the access to the game for new players harder. But ultimately, where I think Pandora's box lies is there's this arms race. Yeah, there's this arms race between the developers having to make a more and more complex fight and more exciting fight, and then of course people undoing the funness of that fight through DBM and weak auras, which I think is something that is a valid argument. Now, in my opinion, I like having some of those things, and we agreed about it. Like, I don't want to have it for the Among Us boss. I don't want to have it where there's, like Neltharion in the second raid this.
Yeah, okay, Neltharion's a great example. The thing is, though, I feel like so many things that have been attributed to the weak aura arms race, they have to make these mechanics because weak auras exist to be able to challenge people, is oftentimes used as somehow an excuse for just making a really fucking shitty mechanic. Like, I've used this example before, but I've showed you all our Echo of Neltharion PTR footage. Echo of Neltharion was a better fight on PTR. They made the dot not as powerful and not as long, so you actually were encouraged to break multiple parts of the wall and they were line of sight instead of a radius around you, which you could make it either. That part didn't really matter. But when they made the fight on live, they buffed the dot and they made it 10 seconds longer, so it was extended by the tank mechanic, which meant that you could only break one wall unless you wanted to die, which meant you had to spread out all those 5 things in a very, very small area. On PTR, you could break every single wall and take them everywhere, and it was super easy to YOLO without weak auras. We did it. We didn't have any weak auras for that. And then they just made the fight significantly worse. It wasn't any more challenging. It was just weird and made it rely on weak auras because of a bad design decision. You can make, and they have made, very cool, challenging, unique bosses where everything in the game is completely visual, right? Did you use weak auras for fucking Tindral Seeds? Absolutely not. Everything was there. Halandris, one of the best bosses of all time. Everything you ever needed to see on Halandris was on a fucking bomb timer over that person's head, right? Sometimes Blizzard makes really bad mechanics, and instead of them changing the mechanic, they're just able to be solved with weak auras, which is a problem, but it starts with just making a really fucking bad mechanic. There are plenty of bosses that are really challenging, really hard as ever, that have nothing to do with a weak aura arms race. It just has to do with them making a mechanic that kind of stinks. And I won't even get started on private auras, because that's obviously just been a failure of a way to kind of combat that, but yeah, we'll get in.
Here for Mythic, you had to have this overlay system to be able to coordinate people within time, because it only gave you like 10 seconds to do it, yada, yada, yada. Like that sounds atrocious, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to read Mythic. They basically
built the fight expecting that you had these add-ons.
Well,
no. Well, I mean, they literally build fights expecting you have DBM and bigwigs. Like, you have timers, therefore, even though, like I said, there are people in our guild who don't really use timers. Like, they have a raid leader, obviously, but like they listen to in-game sounds and yells for mechanics happening, like exclusively. Saying that isn't in the game isn't true, but also saying that those things wouldn't be better if DBM and bigwigs didn't exist is also a thing. They would be better, right? They'd be more obvious to people. So, yeah, I don't know. Again, weak aura arms race is an argument often misattributed to things that people don't understand. They just say it. Also, the guy in the top right is actually pogging.
No, they didn't, because they made it a private aura. So they made it so that you couldn't use DBM, but people got more clever and then used the combat logs to report it to a overlay. So yeah, like it's an arms race because...
Wait, whoa. What the fuck is he talking about?
You know, they said, but people got... Well, no, they didn't, because Mythic to do it, yada, yada, yada. Like that sounds atrocious, and that's part of the reason why I don't want to read Mythic. They basically
built the fight expecting that you had these add-ons.
Well, no, they didn't, because they made it a private aura. So they made it so that you couldn't use DBM, but people got more clever and then used the combat logs to report it to a overlay. So yeah, like it's an arms race because, you know, they said, no, we're not going to let you see this period. We want you to do the mechanic the way that's supposed to be done.
That's not what happened. Unless they were talking about, unless they're talking about putting that map on your screen that had nothing to do with an overlay. Unless I'm misunderstanding.
Done to report it to a overlay.
Oh, I know what he's talking about. You remember when AUG got released midway through Season 2, and then Wowhead was like, hey, we found a way with a third-party overlay to like add damage, add damage meters with AUG stuff included. And then it like opened this Pandora, we said Pandora's box a lot today, where like everyone was like, oh wait, you could actually do some insane shit with this, but then they fixed that before it was ever really a thing. He's talking about macro auras were an overlay. Yeah, that wasn't a third-party overlay. I think we're like confusing a few different things here. That was just putting your all that weak aura was showing the mini-map with a PNG over it. But I think someone is just confusing that. I mean, you could actually just call that an overlay. It is literally an overlaid picture, but I think people are assuming that meant it was like some third-party program was doing that, which is not true.
So yeah, like it's
we were hard preparing for the third-party Armageddon when WoW had announced that shit, and we kind of realized what you could do by reading the combat log. And they made that unusable before the game came out.
An arms race because, you know, they said, no, we're not going to let you see this period. We want you to do the mechanic the way that...
What is it? There was a third party, but not sure for how long it existed and never worked. Okay, so if it was during progression, I would know about it because we would be one of the people making it, and that got fixed before we were ever able to do it. What might have happened is way after progression, where we would not care about it in farms, someone made some shit that got fixed like almost instantly that they must be referring to that I must not know about.
It's supposed to be done. And then, you know,
it was during farm.
The
okay,
nerds out there had this script that you just hit a button and it tells everything to an application outside of WoW that then overlays on your game.
Okay, so the way that the private aura weak auras work is not sending information to something outside your game. It's sending information inside your game to tell a weak aura that you have a mechanic to do a thing, that specific thing. Let me make sure I'm understanding him correctly.
And then, you know, the weak aura, see this period, we want you to do the mechanic the way that's supposed to be done.
Talking about private
and then,
auras.
You know, the weak aura nerds out there had this script that you just hit a button and it tells everything to an application outside of WoW that then overlays on your game. So that, I think
so that is how you got around private auras. None of that involved going outside the game.
Obviously it's horrible. Yeah.
Wait, what is it? Okay, THD has a YouTube video, for example. Okay, this is what he's talking about on Kazara.
5.
Oh, this is the third-party overlay thing that happened in Farm. Yeah, but like no one's sending a script to make this work. This is just reading the combat log add-on, and there's an overlay that shows like where mechanics are and stuff. But they fixed this really, really quickly when it was able to be a thing and once Saga came out. Yeah, but I think what he's talking about here is actually how private aura weak auras worked.
The way that's supposed to, like, it's an arms race because, you know, they said,
right
no,
here?
We're not going to let you see this period. We want you to do the mechanic the way that's supposed to be done. And then, you know, the weak aura nerds out there had this script that you just hit a button and it tells everything to an application outside of WoW that then overlays on your game.
Okay, so yeah, just want to fully clear this up. That is completely false. I'm positive now that that's what he's talking about. That is not how private aura weak auras worked. All of that was done in game. None of it was out of game. I think he's mixing up the few days that something like this worked and then got fixed, like pretty deep into Farm, and conflating that with how private auras worked, which is not true.
So that, I think, obviously is horrible. Yeah.
All good.
Anything, yeah, I was gonna say anything that trivializes like and becomes required, and that is just gonna be a numbers game, like what percentage of people are using this add-on, that would pushes it into like, okay, this is like a required add-on basically if 90% of the community is using it. Like who uses add-ons? But I think we can agree that ones that are up to that level of requirement should either be integrated or not exist.
Yeah, if that's the way that they want the game to be played.
That said, I still feel like if people want to use add-ons to make their experience easier, like then they should be able to.
Oh, easier is interesting. Yeah, I mean, so it's like the dueling accessibility argument, right? Oh, some people actually need add-ons to be able to do a certain thing in the game. And then other people will argue, well, if you take that argument too far and everyone uses these things to make content easier, it actually makes the game inaccessible to new players because they're so far behind all this technology and weird shit that's outside of the game. Like, what is supposed to be accessibility for people who need it becomes mandatory, and then people who don't play the game see it as an accessibility problem.
I don't know if it needs to be easier. That's
no,
the other
maybe
problem.
not for you, but there's people who are like new to the game, new to the class, they want to use Hekili or something, and it's like, who cares?
I know I'm saying is...
Yep.
Should you be learning I guess my idea is when you say easier, I think like, should someone be in heroic rating because they just change classes and they're in there? It's like, no, learn your character.
I mean, I don't.
Yeah.
So obviously, like the way we act in a community, like if I'm entering a group,
every person that uses Hekili to get better at a class faster could play that class as well as they could ever play it. It would just take longer, maybe. Also, Hekili probably hurts people in some cases. Some people still use it even after they are good at the game because they're just like used to it, right? But like pretty much everyone could learn how to play a class without it, right? But are there people who like literally have accessibility concerns and couldn't play it otherwise that it helps? Probably as well, yeah.
With people, if you have Hekili, I'm like gonna cut you one because I think it's funny, right? Like that's like my personal.
Yeah,
like...
and I feel the same way about people who have like 18 weak auras that tell them what to do.
Well, yeah.
My Frankenberry weak aura is
that's
literally
fine.
just nonsense, like showing me all my cooldowns. Yeah.
But I do genuinely think it doesn't. If that's the way you enjoy to play the game, yeah, people might poke fun at you or whatever. But it's like if that's what creates your enjoyment of the game, you should have it.
Yeah, it's a really good point actually. The main reason that Hekili or whatever it's called doesn't help you is because it tells you what to hit, but it doesn't tell you why. Right, if you guys have ever played a WoW class decently well, you could play another WoW class and you kind of understand why certain things work. You understand how sacks work, you understand what procs mean, you understand you have like a dot you're supposed to keep up, but if you just like start playing WoW and you do Hekili like off the bat, you're pressing buttons in an order and but it's not actually helping you understand why you're doing those things, where maybe if it never existed, you would read more into what your abilities do, stuff like that.
But then the game really, I guess if you need that to make the game fun, is the game really for you?
I don't
don't play
gatekeeping behavior. behavior. I don't like that gatekeeping behavior because it's like for it to.
Everyone on here has kind of spit about something, especially these bottom two. This guy in the top left has been questionable.
He
Robot
wants
man.
His wife to play or something. She's never played a game like this. You know.
I love that. Like I love making the UI weak auras for my. You remember Scrap when I made my Frost DK one? And it was like my entire screen turned like into an ice cube.
That's the other thing is that like something might be easy for me to track and hard for you to track, and it's like I love that with a weak aura. It's like, you know, I'm having trouble with this one specific thing that maybe nobody else has trouble with, right? But for me, I'm like, this makes my experience of the game better. I should have it, right?
And I mean,
until you take that argument too far, 20 years go by, and things that were meant to help people access content now feel like they're required because the game has been built around it for a while, and new players feel like they need those things to play the game at a base level. Again, what is meant to be accessibility at some point becomes required, and it makes it inaccessible for people who are new.
Johnny, send us on, because we got to keep moving, but like Pandora's box is open. I don't think we can close it.
It'll never be closed. It's not going anywhere. Weak auras are here to stay. At whole, upper end raiders all seem to lean towards the fact that DBM is bad. Will they ever get DBM gone? Probably not. It's there.
I don't know if they'd ever, because DBM's been around forever. But I mean, I personally would like raids to be like, you can have, and I don't think this is possible. Like, I'm not smart enough with weak auras to know how you could limit it in this way. But like, if basically you could use weak auras and all add-ons to make your UI look the way you want it to make it look, right? Like, you can have your buttons in a certain spot, you can have debuffs in a good spot, but they literally, like, there was no like auto assignment weak auras and shit, and because of that they didn't build the game around it. I think that would just be great, and I would also be great with bigwigs being gone too. You can get a lot of the information you get from bigwigs from the game. What you're going to get from bigwigs is knowing what's coming in the next 20 seconds, but when things happen, the game tells you. And they would have to do an even better job at that if bigwigs and DBM were gone. And I as a raid leader would like that as well. I mean, that would make your job, you more impactful too, right? I think overall I would be a fan of that. But I don't know how you can still have the weak aura UI element stuff and the LVUI UI, and also they find a way to remove that stuff. As far as I can tell, I think it's like somehow connected, which is where the scorched earth argument comes from of just remove everything. We've already gone over how I don't think that's a very good idea, but it would be nice if they could do that. But also they can make really, really fucking awesome, great bosses with really hard mechanics that don't have assignment weak auras. And they've done it. In fact, most of these bosses' mechanics are like that, and then a few of them are bad, right? See, I mean, that's like an instant solution, right?
So it's going to continue to be a thing.
Rashok never needed weak auras. Even Tindril, like Tindril, actually Tindril had like Dispel weak auras were low-key like necessary for Tindril. Trying to YOLO the Dispels on Tindril and like what order people were being dispelled would be like just kind of nuts. I mean, they would have had to just make that ability a little bit less time restrictive when it first came out.
I think it's okay that without DBM, certain things might get harder because certain things definitely trivialize what they intended to be harder content anyway.
Yeah, but again, there might be growing pains to this, but they would obviously, in this theoretical scenario, they would make raids easier because of that. They would, if they're just making content where no one's clearing it, they would get an idea. There would definitely be a season of growing pains, though. I don't even know where they would start.
Not every bit of WoW has to be accessible to everyone.
I mean, they've
been making raids and combat for this stuff existing for forever, right? Like that would be a massive leap.
Pull the Band-Aid off and just say, look, we obviously have this. Yeah, next, War Within or whatever, there's no add-ons. And
I don't think they will.
I think it would take a season for them to get like acclimated, but I agree with you. I don't think they will. Pandora's box.
Wait, sorry. I mean, they're already terrible at balance. What balance? Like class balance? I think this expansion's the most balanced this game's been. It's been really good.
The accessibility of the game is hurting the amount of people who get to play it.
Well, and this is assuming they would add a lot of that stuff.
But it's not accessible.
Minus season 2. Yeah, last half of season 2, yeah.
Slightly harder, and you have
it's weird. Like the entire expansion has kind of been the best. First half of season 2, all of season 1, all of season 3, or especially the back half of season 1 and season 3. But like the back half of season 2 was like the literal worst.
Slightly more at it. It's no different than someone's slightly better at a different game than I am, and I have to work harder to keep up, it doesn't mean I don't enjoy it. If I enjoy the game, I don't mind working hard at it.
Yeah, I don't think an add-on for Dark Souls would make me enjoy it any differently.
No,
even if it made it more manageable.
It's so different because it's like, so I play
Dark Souls again
because I enjoy
single
that
player, isn't it?
It's single player, yeah. It's PvE.
What's the relevance of that?
Well, I'm just saying it's like if I felt like I was not enjoying a part of it and there was an add-on to make me enjoy it more, I would do it. Right?
Oh, I agree with
that argument doesn't hold up well.
What is it?
The WoW
what is with people
reason...
comparing to Dark Souls? It's so irrelevant. It's because it got brought up initially. It's one of the worst strawmans ever about WoW add-ons. And it's like, yeah, you think add-ons are good in WoW? Well, imagine if Dark Souls had add-ons that told you what every boss was going to do. And it's like, no one's... Like, the WoW relative argument to that is Weakor is telling you what every boss is going to do, which everyone universally doesn't like. So it's like, you're arguing something... It's just the worst argument of all time. You're not arguing against anything. You're just saying things. And then that's why they started talking about it.
People, like, get the add-ons because, oh, shit, someone else has it. They have this advantage, and I need to keep up. And,
yeah,
and it's like...
I understand.
It might be required for rating.
Completely different, like, not to skew the thing. I totally understand the argument for not wanting it in PvP because it's directly competitive, right? But PvE, like, we play it competitively because we're assholes, but it's not competitive, right? It's like
we're just competing with each other to be competitive.
Even in a mythic dungeon or a raid,
we'd still be competitive if we didn't have a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I know, but you guys are like, you're working together, and it's like if I feel like I need something to kind of like keep me at that level or push, and I still feel like I'm enjoying it, like whether if that's because of
it's not competitive, in parentheses there's a ranking and title for being the best. Yeah, but they're saying that like we mostly do that. Well, there's like rankings for like doing it a lot, but most of the competitiveness in PvE is community driven, and any rewards in game that are relative to that is based on the community being into it at the beginning anyway. It's always majority been a community thing. There was Raider.io for years before there was ever an in-game score or any kind of like 1% title in Mythic Plus, right? PvP is baseline competitive. You are literally competing against other people. You're not actually doing that in a while unless you make it that.
Lack of challenge. Like, you should be able to, like, I like being able to tailor the experience. I like that the option is available to people, right?
I want someone to be at my level and not have to have a crutch to be at my
I mean,
level.
Hall of Fame has been there since forever. Hall of Fame's been in there since BFA when they did like some Horde versus Alliance shit. That's why it was split. But people cared about what rank you came in for years before that, before there was ever Realm First as well.
See, that it doesn't
they can be there, they
bother
can't.
me.
If PvE isn't competitive, it wouldn't be meta-driven. Something here is getting lost in translation. No one is saying that PvE is not competitive. They're like, people make it competitive. That was her entire point. The whole meta thing is because people make it competitive. What she's saying is right.
Right, like
I know, but
if you feel like you need an add-on to do it well, I mean, it's like I'll rib you and I'll be like, oh, you need this, whatever. But it's like, to me, it doesn't actually hurt my experience with the game. I'm playing it at the level that is challenging to me with a PvE experience. You know?
Yeah, I guess.
Why would you ever fucking care if someone played a single-player game with add-ons? In fact, a lot of single-player games are kept alive long after their initial release because of the modding community in general. Just the entire basis of this take is ridiculous.
I think accessibility is just... I'm okay if someone... Like, I don't...
There's different levels of accessibility.
Yeah, I don't Mythic Raid because I find it too hard. Even if I had every add-on in the sun, I would still not Mythic Raid because it's too hard for me.
That's fine.
So I'm okay with the idea of someone saying, like, if they say if they got rid of DBM and people are like, oh, I find, heroic raiding too hard now, I only can do normal. Well, that's what you can do. And I don't think that's holding you from playing the game. It just means there's a level that you can't get to, or you either have to get better.
How did his mic end up sounding like that? Like, they're not mentioning it, so this must just be how his mic always is, but like, there has to be like a cable in there, like fucking twisted in the worst possible direction. And not fixing it while also making podcast content honestly goes hard as fuck.
I have an unpopular opinion that's gonna...
Oh, here we go.
Really
I was trying to move us up.
Oh, here we go. Here we go.
No, let's move on.
Let's fucking spit. This guy is either the best take or worst take ever.
No, I just want to hear it.
No, come on, hit us.
I think Blizzard games in general are leaning toward the, I said earlier, pussified. I mean, ultimately, they're really
pussified,
making the game accessible when really they're just, dumbing down and simplifying and making everything like PC for everyone. You know,
I think this is a game with like 35 buttons that you.
Okay, this is weird. This is actually, so he's kind of right, but I don't think it's Blizzard's fault. Like back in 2009, everyone played the game and they did everything. Everyone raided, they PvP'd a little bit, did some BGs, fucking everyone was doing the same shit, and then it got more fractured and fractured over time, and because of that, Blizzard has to kind of make it still work for everyone because there are so many people who play it for different reasons, and it's not like, I mean, let me make sure I'm
pussified. I mean, Blizzard games in general are leaning toward the, I said earlier, pussified. I mean,
okay, I don't understand the pussified part. That doesn't really have anything to do with what he said after this, but
ultimately it's they're really making the game accessible when really they're just, I mean, dumbing down and simplifying and.
But I thought they made the game for the 1%.
Making everything like PC for everyone. You know,
I think this is a game with like 35 buttons that you need to reliably press, like.
Which we'll get to.
Hold on.
Getting to that next point, right?
No, hold on.
I'm compared.
What is he even fucking talking about? Dude, that actually just sounded like he's like, guys, 1 second, I gotta get a fucking takeout. And he just fucking spewed some nonsense, just some fucking yelling from his front lawn shit, and then he just stopped.
To like
He's like, fucking WoW's for fucking pussies.
popular game, it's like a lot of buttons.
I would
think
say
it needs to be dumbed down a little bit.
But the content's getting harder and harder too.
Dude, that guy in the bottom right is an insane podcast guest. Guy goes crazy.
But the reason they're making it quote unquote easier is because Blizzard knows in their game. They know within their games, even us at doing the level we do, we're in the 10% range.
We're in the 3% range.
Yeah.
So as far as I know, that none of them do Mythic. They all do Heroic, and I guess that's within the 3%.
We're in the top end,
which is pretty insane.
Surprisingly, now the 1%.
Crazy to think about.
We're in the very top end. So in other Blizzard games, say like Diablo 4, because I know the graphic for it, they made the
Diablo 4 take
Gauntlet, which is supposed to be the new, like the latest in-game hard content to do, level 72 out of 100, because 85% of people have not got past a level 72 dungeon. Just like, I don't know, I guess if we're in the 3%, 97% of people haven't got past a...
What? But also because people don't play that game because it's kind of bad. It's like people getting to 72. Also, like where you decide to have the gauntlet mode start has absolutely nothing to... Dude, what is this guy want? Maybe I heard this wrong?
Level 72, because I know the graphic for it. They made the Gauntlet, which is supposed to be the new, like the latest in-game hard content to do, level 72 out of 100, because 85% of people have not got past a level 72.
Yeah, but like, okay, they're like designing new content. What if they made it level 72 because they wanted you to actually clear fast and get a high score, which is the only point of the mode?
Dungeon, just like, I don't know.
But he's saying that the reason they did it is because so many players don't even get to that level 100 point.
I guess if we're in the 3%,
yeah, but even if you were to make that argument, maybe it's because they quit. It's not because they weren't good enough to do that. Like, bro, Diablo isn't hard.
7% of people
hold
haven't got
on.
past a plus 15.
But is that because of difficulty, or is that because they just quit the game? I mean, Diablo 4
True, top right spitting.
is facing its own problem of people not playing.
No, it's not because of... It's because of...
And let's do a Diablo viewer count check. Actually, it might be more than usual because like the PTR is out for that, I think now. Okay, no, they've got viewers. They've got viewers. Never mind. They got Woody Joe. They got Dat Mods. They got Rax on there. Okay, yeah, dude. Every time I look at Diablo 4 on Twitch, it's like 115 viewers total or something. It's insane.
They are not good enough, or they don't go past that level. Just like in WoW, aside from so many people, I know a ton of people who've not done a plus 10 because they don't feel like it's too hard for them.
Sure, yeah.
So
yeah,
WoW is doing the same thing.
Both of those.
We as higher level.
That Diablo
players
4 analogy was a stretch.
Are okay that it's difficult where it is, but WoW as a whole, we're 3% of their player base and subscription base, so they are going to make the game.
I think they got that number wrong. I think they all rate heroic. I don't think that's top 3% rating heroic. I think that's like a little like 10. I mean, I don't know these numbers for sure. It's probably like 10 or something. It's definitely, that doesn't change anything they were saying. They said that we're not the majority of the game, and that's correct for sure. But I don't think it's quite that
more like for Scrap says, accessible to people to subscribe.
But accessibility is not easy, right? I mean, like we literally just talked about a post today where they're making the Mythic Zero, we'll call it 10 times harder, right? Because people want that more challenging content without...
That's not what's happening at all. But it's just, that's not what's happening. I'm not going to explain. I think all of you guys that we went over that. It's just shifting the numbers around a little bit. It's a really good change, but yeah.
Some of the drawbacks to the fixes.
I think they want Mythic Zero to feel not like a heroic dungeon.
Yeah,
Right,
they want it to feel more challenging.
The main thing they wanted to accomplish is they wanted to make, when you first hit max level, heroic and normal feel different in power level, which like currently normals and heroics feel exactly the same when you're top level. It's like what you do them like for 2 seconds, then you never do them again. Heroics will be more relevant early into the expansion. And they also removed all timers from what used to be Mythic 2 through 10, which was a huge thing for the casual community. Like, the arbitrary statement of Mythic Zeros are now 10 times harder, which is not true. Just in general, that's not how that works. That's not how the numbers work. But even then, it's like they did it for a totally different reason. Everything is still like kind of the same. It's just like spreading out the difficulties. Good change, but misunderstood here.
Again, timer doesn't equal challenge, right? We could do a +2 in 10 minutes, right?
Well, timer does equal challenge when you're not that great, and people leave dungeons if they're not going to make the timer.
But again, that
only happens at high levels.
Zero is not going to be timed still, right?
Yes, M0 will have.
They said that only happens at higher levels. I think that's true. They're talking like levels 2 through 10. I don't imagine leaving is like a crazy often thing.
No timer. But they also make heroic harder.
I think.
Anyways,
Yeah, I like
I'm
that.
just saying the game's not aimed at us, and this is partly why we do the podcast, because we were doing it for the other 97% of people.
Yeah.
Say like we're not.
And shout out to you for that. I've actually really enjoyed this so far.
The meta people. We don't play all the meta specs, classes, builds. So yeah, WoW isn't built for the 3%. It's built for the other 97% of people who are the vast majority of their subscribers.
Well, and yeah, I think that okay. Well, that's another story for another day. We're not gonna go down that rabbit hole right now. Okay, last point. Button bloat. So yeah, and here's my take to kick us off. I like how many spells and choices and all that stuff.
Frank, I was gonna say that exact point. Is that like I like this game, how many variety of things I can do. You know?
How do you make 39 or whatever specs it is without having vast varying degrees of spells? And you know, you guys mock me for saying arcane is the hardest, but it is, right? Like, I mean,
mock you for
he's just gonna come out there and say it. You guys mock me for saying that this thing's the hardest, but fucking it is. What a crazy statement.
We agree with you, but we just
no, you don't.
No, I've sat there and agreed with you.
By the way, they might be talking about, this is a mage, I think they all play mage. It's Around The Mage Table. So they may just be talking about of all the mage specs. And even then you might make the argument that that's not true. I think historically, I think that is true. Like from just my own guild, I've noticed the biggest difference in alt mages gameplay. Like fire, everyone can play fire, everyone can play frost. Arcane is like totally hit or miss, and that could mean that arcane is weird, but it also means that it might have a little bit more going on. I'm not quite sure. That's a historically, obviously not like right now.
Shared a video where it says it is.
Well, yeah, that was you're talking about years, but in this podcast you didn't agree with me.
Yeah, no, we mock you because you bring it up, and we're like, yeah, we know it is the hardest. You don't have to cry about it anymore.
Anyways.
Yeah, it's almost like you play the hardest one just because you like to cry about it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Oh, fucking get shit on. You're done. Look at his reaction. He's so mad.
That's your excuse. It's your safety net.
Yeah, you fucking play the hard spec just to be an elitist, you little fucking bitch.
Like, well, I have the hardest
Dude, I'm gonna call him Leo.
spec, so it's like
New Leo.
Anyways.
The ha emote.
Point is that I like having all those spells to juggle, right? And they're not even like, I'm not even juggling the variations of frost and fire spells that I'd have in
oh my god, he's fucking tilted.
Arsenal.
He's defending himself.
Class mage. And I honestly, I can understand the accessibility of it, like coming in, but I feel like that makes the mountain more worth climbing. That you like, you know, for example, okay, I'll give you an example. Altar time, mirror image, like all my defensives. I didn't use them that much in Shadowlands. I didn't use them really, you know, definitely not during the leveling experience, all that kind of stuff. And what really pushed me,
dead all the time.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
Go get you. Let's fucking go, New Leo. You're fucking dead.
Exactly, right?
You're dead.
But then once I started pushing into the 24s and whatnot, I was like, I have to use them or else I will not be in this dungeon, right? And I liked that I had to learn how to start using them, and I'm not even great at it right now. But like I like that
Holy
point.
shit.
They're a lot of people are calling for there's too much defensive bloat, and those definitely need to be culled. I can get it because there's so
Facts.
many ones.
Everyone from every corner of the community agrees that defensives, I really hope when alpha comes out, we just see that defensives have been, especially with them adding them in the hero talent trees, that some of them are gone. I have some hope because clearly there's a ton of changes in the spec and class trees on alpha. The only ones we know of so far are the ones that they've had to tell us because of hero talent trees. Like, for example, there's no more reliance on being in your D&D for Death Knights, but the only reason we know that is because they had to clarify it because of the response to one of the trees, right? There's just probably, and same thing, I think Mistweavers had one too. So hopefully that is a thing. Big hopium for sure. It's getting out of control.
Shot mechanics, but I think that might be just more
especially Moonkins. They need to be looked at. Not too much defensives for them.
Symptom of tuning, like things.
Yeah,
maybe tune the defensives down as well.
I will say so Asmongold said he wanted it to be like 10 buttons, right?
10, yeah.
I will say there's
little.
plenty of games that are extremely fun with like less than 10 buttons. Like think about like League of Legends, it has like 4.
Well, even in the MMO space, Elder Scrolls is like 6.
Yeah, like Plunderstorm, you have 4. Like, and it's like super fun. You don't need
6?
those buttons to be fun. Whatever.
Thunderstorm 6, right?
6,
yeah.
okay, whatever. Less than 10, right? Like you don't need more buttons does not equal fun, but it's like if I want to play a game that has a lot of buttons. I mean, that's why I'm playing WoW, because I like different nuances between them. Yep. And like you're not required to play a spec where you have like 8 to 10 in your rotation, right?
Imagine
like,
the leveling experience.
2 to 3 in your rotation.
A new game,
from 0 to 7.
A new game being made right now as an MMO, you could have 10 buttons, and I think it'd be pretty good. I think a game that's 20 years old with 39 specs that all feel deeply different from each other. I did a little thought experiment of it, but going down to 10 buttons is way too big of a stretch. Every class's uniqueness, so many of your iconic abilities, charge, leap, they're just like it's all gone. You have like 7 rotational abilities. You have 1 defensive, which would actually be a good thing. You have like a utility spell and like maybe 1 more. It's just too big of a stretch. I think let's reduce some buttons in the game. I could meet you there. The 10 is ridiculous. I also heard recently that Asmongold kind of walked that back, and he said he wanted 10 rotational buttons. But that's really interesting because what I found out by doing that experiment was that most classes actually already have less than 10 rotational buttons. In fact, I think almost all of them do. So basically, I think he just walked that back. But either way, we're still going to talk about it anyway. The 10 button thing would be really bad. But I could let's definitely cut down some of that defensive bloat for sure.
To get all of 10 buttons.
Yeah, right.
So,
I mean, I feel like 10 buttons, that's for games like League of Legends, which are very like round based, Dota.
There's other MMOs that have less buttons than WoW. They also have way less specs. Way less, and it plays a bit differently, but can work. Very different kind of game though.
Your dungeon crawlers and
I wish Diablo had more
roguelites,
spells.
you know?
I wish I had more variation to my Diablo stuff.
And if you think about games like Diablo, it's not simpler. It's just as complex.
Wait 1 second, Max, bottom right in YouTube chat. Wait, one of the guys is in my YouTube chat. Let's go. Wait, which one? Let me get his profile picture. Go to channel. I think it's the bottom right guy. It's the Agent of Chaos. Holy shit, that's so hype.
I'm
gonna make him a mod in my YouTube chat. I hope he doesn't ban everybody. All right, let's get it.
Fewer abilities when you're actually playing, but you have this vast like tree of selections and talents and points and shit to go spend in 3 different ways, like PoE and
PoE is another.
The new one, Last Epoch, whatever. Like, dude, the game is not easier by any means, or simpler, or less complex. It's just fewer things.
Well, it's certainly in a lot of cases less complex, but that's what people would argue is actually something that would be good, right? Like the complexity of some of WoW specs is too much. It's not a horrible argument for sure. Not all of them universally, obviously. And difficulty is weird. Like something that's too hard is actually bad. Like I think like some people are just like, oh, our game has harder content. Bro, any game could just like crank the knob a few more notches higher on difficulty and a boss could be literally impossible, but is that good? You know? It's like, what do you like? Difficulty is like relatively attainable, fun, challenging, makes you think, and then it's, doable, right? That's fun. I think, well, I mean, I guess that changes for everybody. Some people in the WoW community clearly don't want challenging content. They just want it to be easy and get their stuff. Wait, this is top right? Wait, oh shit, top right's in here too? Oh, here he is. Max, I am new Leo here in the chat. Oh, let's fucking go. Let's go, new Leo.
To do
Yo, they all said you died in raid, by the way. Holy fuck.
Playing, which to me is worse than having more buttons. Like I want to be able to use those things and not have to.
By the way, I really enjoy you guys doing this. I said at the beginning, I'm not sure if you were here from the beginning of the stream, but like I found this last night. I don't even know how this popped up on my feed, but I just found this shit and I watched a little bit of it. And I'm like, bro, my stream would love to hear some of these takes from some people who play the game different from me. So thank you guys for that. But also your new Leo, though. Oh, by the way, did old Leo talk to you about this? Because you guys have been fucking slandering that man.
10%
like Jesus.
Of this vast...
Like, anytime you guys need an example of someone who wouldn't be good enough to do content, you're like, yeah, but what would fucking Leo do?
Option
like,
of things.
Jesus.
I feel like... I feel like the game could do a much better job of introducing a new player to the things that we have. Yeah. Because at the current moment...
No, I know people like Leo. I bet the only reason you guys brought him up is because you know that he wouldn't give a fuck about you bringing that stuff up. You'd probably be... He's a fun guy.
Well, once every 5 minutes, and you're introduced to 3 new abilities every time, and it's like, what the fuck am I doing? You know?
100% agree with that, yeah.
But I don't think that fewer abilities is the answer.
I think there could be fewer. I don't think 10 is the problem.
10's an extremely hyperbolic solution.
Yeah, I agree.
That's even been walked back by the original take giver.
It does feel like...
There's bloat, because you have there's definitely abilities you could take and put those, like, say, like 2 abilities into one, where, like, you might have 2 or, you might have a movement one and a defensive that gives you, like a dodge % up. Well, there's no reason you couldn't put the movement and the dodge % up, because there's a good chance you're trying to move fast because you're also trying to dodge something. So could you bring buttons down? Sure. Is there too many, like, defensives? There is.
Yes.
Because that's why you have a tank and 4 DPS running Mythic Plus at 20.
True. And the class trees added a lot of off-healing specs. Like, classes that share a class with a healer got, like, super insane off-healing this expansion. But yeah, they... Yeah, dude, I can't wait to do an interview. I hope I can do an interview soon. I have so many questions to ask, and the main one is, like, concerns about defensive scaling with, like, fucking examples, too. And I really want to hear their thought on that.
And you don't need a healer, so you could definitely
get these guys to discuss on stream. No, I'm hearing them in the past right now. I mean, I could. Yeah, it would be nice to actually call all 4 of them and ask them some specific stuff. I could do that. I actually really enjoy this. How did they find my stream, though? Someone in here's a snitch. Let's talk about it. So who fucking, why are they all here? Huh? Caught? Yeah, there you are.
Get rid of some buttons, but 10 is too little.
I agree, Shawnee.
Asmongold's take is meant to be, like, super, like, look at me. But yeah, they're
shocking.
Oh, Asmongold's take was meant to be, oh, look at me, and then she hit him with a, listen to the shocking she rips.
Take is meant to be, like, super, like, look at me. But yeah, there could definitely
shocking.
Oh, Asmon with the strays.
I mean, pit pocket for rogues, useless talent. It's useless. It's not used in the game. There's no good of it.
Okay.
The only time it was ever good is they actually made a quest every week during
Legion.
What was it? Legion, that you would go and use it, and that was great. But otherwise, there's no point.
Let me ask this though. Okay. Would you rather them remove pickpocketing or make pickpocketing something that is relevant?
It's got to be removing, right? Like, what do you mean relevant? Like rotationally? Like rotationally, you just like reach your hand in the boss's pockets and you just take, you know what I mean?
Never gonna be relevant.
I mean, you'd probably just do whatever you do now, which is like it's a button you have on your bar for like a once in a expansion situation, and then you press it. I don't know if the game's necessarily 10 times better without it. I don't think the issue is like rogue pickpocket as much. I think the issue with buttons, certainly we've talked about defensives a million times. I think it's like buttons that look the same as something else. Like, I've used this anecdote before, but when Suki was trying to learn this game, I was trying to tell her to use Frost Mage abilities, and just every single ability looked like every other ability's name. Oh, press Frost Nova. Okay, hovers over every spell. Press Cold Snap. Hovers over every spell. Right? It's like, when you get into it, it's just overwhelming as fuck, the amount of abilities at max level. But then the class trees and spec trees are supposed to help you with that, because if you actually level from 1, they actually start introducing new buttons to you one at a time. Right, but if you blow through that process really fast, then like now you're max level. I have no idea of how well Blizzard actually achieves that. I know the trees are laid out that way. It's actually, so many people don't realize that. Like, the amount of opinions I've heard from people just like me that haven't leveled in years and years and years are like, how come the top of my class tree is picking abilities that I've already had baseline for years? And it's like, well, it's because when people are leveling for the first time in this game, they want to slowly give them things like you know, I-beam and then this, you know, like they don't want you to have all of those things baseline because it would make, it's literally trying to get new people into the game. But again, what players who play this game for a super long time want often contradicts what Blizzard would do to help aid new players in enjoying WoW and not feeling overwhelmed. Those two, doing things for either one of those people often contradict each other.
But in a dungeon.
No, you can make it relevant. You can make it like
really
so that you
cool
could
in the
like
open
pickpocket
world.
something from the
I would
boss.
Like
prefer-
do a shortcut or
Yeah,
something.
like think of Court of Stars where you poison the thing, the vial.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
that's
I'm
cool.
okay, I'm okay if they got rid of pickpocketing.
Yeah,
No, but I
I
mean, like,
think
give it
there
as
should
an
be
example.
more
Would you
like
rather
that.
them take it away or make it valuable?
But they don't have to make it an ability either. They don't have to do
Okay.
either of those things. You
Spit.
can like walk
No,
up
but
and
I-
interact
Spit.
with the thing that you want to pick its pocket versus
I
like,
Sure,
genuinely
but- Having that
miss
skill.
abilities like that where it's like it's kind of just like a fun thing. You're not gonna use it
yeah,
in a
you're
situation.
a rogue, dude.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it's-
Like
it's
I like
still a-
in you can use Eyes of the Beast as a hunter, and it's like yeah, that had some really niche applications. But sometimes I just want to run around as
How do you actually say that word? Niche, niche. It's niche, right? I'm not like getting on her for that, but I hear people say it different all the time. Like Tags says niche and it makes me want to explode. It makes me so mad. Is it niche? Okay.
seagull. Like it doesn't have to have like those aren't buttons that are on my bar, for example. I'm saying there's 39 buttons on my bar that I used in a dungeon setting.
And I think there could be,
Pickpocket wouldn't be there, right?
yeah, I think there could be less.
Like those are the buttons, again, those are the kind of buttons that are gone from your class if you are doing the, again, extreme 10 button argument. If you just are playing whatever class you play right now and you're thinking about like the iconic stuff your class does, it's not really rotational, but it's like your class just has this button, you know, like Ring of Peace or like Transcendence or like Pickpocket or Death Grip or Mass Grip or, you know, just really thematic things that make these classes what they are. Those are the things that are being removed, and I just think that those are the things that make WoW classes, with 39 of them, make them feel unique and special and have history to them. And it's just the primary problem with trying to make if you make a new game today, how many buttons do you have? And maybe it's 10, but not in a 20-year-old game. There's just too much stuff going on.
I guess
People would fucking hate that shit.
my thing.
I
I'm
think
not
they use,
with
like, 12
Asmongold on 10,
abilities.
but
As
like
a tank, yeah.
definitely I think they could.
Max the Dictionary says all 3 pronunciations are correct. What dictionary then? Are you a Merriam-Webster merchant? Dude, that's my new bit, by the way. When people say dictionaries say stuff, I like try to get them to tell me what dictionary and then imply the one they chose is like fucking stupid or something. Like they chose they like you like that dictionary, bro?
I
it-
agree with Shawnee. I think if you went from like 39 down to like 28.
Wait, I missed it. Wait, what happened? Was there a crazy pause? Oh,
Yeah.
fuck, it's fine. I missed it.
I think they could.
Oh, that's the pause. It must have been something like that. Wait, why did he do that face?
There could be.
Pickpocket wouldn't be there, right?
Yeah, I think there could be less. I guess is my thing.
I
I'm
think
not
they use,
with
like, 12
Asmongold on
abilities.
10.
You,
But,
wait, you
like,
want
Tank,
12?
yeah.
Definitely, I think they could.
Why did he do that? Did he just like natty he's like fuck it, I'm gonna do a face. Dude, this guy's the best podcast guest of all time.
I
You
agree
never
with
know what he's
Shawnee.
gonna
I think
do.
if you went from like 39 down to like 28. or
Bro did, like, a
something,
fucking
that would not
Fortnite
hurt.
emote in
Like,
real
I
life
think
for
in
no
every
reason.
rotation of I haven't played a lot of classes, but like there's always like one button where it's like, oh, you just press this every 45 seconds. And it's like, why? It's like, oh, because you just do. Like you don't need
Well, because it's got a
that.
cooldown that gives you damage or what, defense.
Yeah, something like that. Like
It's not
but
like there's a button that says don't hit this button and if you don't you die. Like that's not how that
I
works.
mean,
I'm just like even if in survival, for example, it's kind of like explosive shot. It's like, okay, like every time it's off cooldown, you hit it, it does a bunch of damage. It doesn't interact with anything else. Like it just does damage every 45 seconds. So I press it,
so like
but it
that's
doesn't
a button
interact with
that
my rotation. You know,
that's a button that could be molded into another one where like
or got
every
rid of.
45 seconds. No, they could still have explosive shot and say like when you use this other skill
Explosive shock?
every 45 seconds you'll get an
Shot.
explosive shot.
Yeah,
It
no.
would be
Okay,
cool
shot.
if every button in your like arsenal, like in your rotation arsenal, your damage doing arsenal, related to each other. Like the way like your
Yeah,
main like
you
3
could
or 4
argue-
buttons,
They
where
kinda
it's
You
like
do.
could
you're
argue
juggling.
there'd be more synergy between everything, right? But what I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you is, would you rather them throw away explosive shot or make it so that when you hit it for 45 seconds,
Don't they
even if
turbo
it's
do
not
that?
even like a damage buff, it's just like, you grow 5%, let's say.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be
okay,
awesome.
no, no, no.
In size?
I-
Wait, sorry, what's up?
Percent, let's 45 seconds. Right? But what I'm going to
Yeah.
ask you is, would you rather them throw away explosive shot or make it so that when you hit it for 45 seconds, even if it's not even like a damage buff, it's just like, you grow 5%, let's say.
grow fight, like your character just gets bigger. So like by the end of the fight, every time, that doesn't even make sense though. Like how are you getting bigger by shooting an explosive arrow? Why? You're getting bricked? You guys are so stupid. Fucking Merriam-Webster Andes.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Okay, no. I need it to like interact. Like there's things that are on 45-second cooldowns that like give me a buff, and so I want to prioritize these like higher damage during the buff window, whatever. Like most of my abilities do that. But for example, explosive shot doesn't interact with anything else. In fact, you want to use it outside of your cooldown windows because it's like it just does damage. It doesn't interact.
So do you throw it away or do you make it more valuable?
I would throw it away. So that's going down from 39 to 25, right? Is that like anything that doesn't interact directly with like whatever your goal is, like in your class?
See how many things I actually use.
I know, and I really, if we had time, I'd say let's open up the spell book and say like cut or keep, right?
Well, I'll tell you that just like the mentality of what I would cut versus what I would keep is that like, you know, as a class, it's like, okay, let's say I'm a Fury Warrior. My goal as a Fury Warrior, like my bread and butter is to gain rage with rage gain. It's on all the classes. It's like gain thing, spend
builder,
thing,
spender,
right? Yeah, builder, spender, right? So I like when abilities interact. Like for example, you have your 2.5 minute cooldowns or whatever, and it's like, okay, so this makes my rage double, you know, so that I have to do it a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I would
think
cut
enhancement
everything.
is a good example of this.
Yeah, I would cut everything that's just like, you know, every 45 seconds you hit it because you only get access to it every 45 seconds.
Really? I feel like, you know, that to me is like Unholy DK, right? So like imagine if Unholy DK only had Gargoyle and Army every 3 minutes, but every 45 seconds you didn't have Pet Empower and Gargoyle. Like, yeah, you're only hitting it every 45 seconds, but it gives your profile some meaning in a longer period of a fight rather than just doing the same thing for 3 minutes. You know what I'm saying? Like having explosive shot in cooldown windows is great. So I don't know if I would necessarily agree with that.
It does a lot of damage, right? Cut that stuff. Just keep it all.
Damage profiles are trash? What do you even mean? Am I being baited? What do you mean damage profiles are trash? You don't think it's cool that like different classes in this game are more powerful at different spots? Like if everyone just actually bursted on a 2 minute, that'd be kind of boring. I think like some classes being great every minute, some being every 45, some being all the time with basically no cooldowns. Some being cooldown reliant have been the most problematic, like Demo and Unholy, because like there's just too one-dimensional and that can feel bad. Venthyr, Moonkin, and Shadowlands. I think like having... Am I getting one guy? Fuck, I know I'm getting one. God fucking
Everything
damn it.
should
I'm saying, what I'm saying is so obvious.
Theme of like, you know, build and spend, or like for survival, it's like, you know, maximizing your bombs.
Shoutout.
Right? So everything that's maximizing that.
Oh, double.
Like, or the cooldowns being brought down.
Do it again.
Or like getting more damage on it, you know.
Let me pose an enhancement.
I don't know if you guys saw this, bro. The guy in the bottom right got a crazy flashbang for a second. Hold the fuck up.
Or like
I'm sorry. I'm gonna pause
on it.
Dude, he's so funny. He's so fucking funny, man. Everything he does is so funny. Like, why is this happening? Like, what could you possibly be looking at? Oh my god.
Let me pose an enhancement, and granted, I'm not very good at it.
He doesn't even react. He just like...
But the idea is kind of like this idea of builder spender, but like you have different paths that open up to you as you're spending, right?
God.
So you would rather not have the abilities of saying, because again, we could probably see 10 buttons in this alone of, you know, Storm Strike and Lava Lash as your two kind of like, I think they're both builders. And then you have either a Lightning Bolt for single target, Chain Lightning for AoE. You have, you know, Flame Shock, or not Flame Shock. Yeah, you have Flame Shock as a dot that kind of keeps things like rolling. You have this like fire, lava burst or whatever. And like there's all these avenues, doors that open up based on what flap is open.
Yeah, no, I like that. I think if that's kind of what your class is about, is that like choosing between these different like situational avenues depending on something else. Like those are things that relate to each other, right? Like this is opening these doors, and these situations are better for this. What I'm talking about is just like something that you press because it does a lot of damage every now and then. Because I know that both on Fury and Survival we have those, so...
Yeah, but I feel like if you remove those buttons from every class, then every class is going to feel so much more similar. I feel like it gives it flavor. Also, a lot of those buttons are like iconic abilities that have been around forever, though. Like, I really don't know if I'm down with what she's saying. Like, if you actually go through WoW classes and you want to prune abilities, defensives, it's like right there. Like, everyone's with you, right? But like when you talk about offensive rotational stuff, there's not a ton that needs to go away. It either gives it flavor or it's like a cool ability or it's something that feels good to press and it's there. I don't know if there's a lot. Like there's some where like you could maybe like bake them into things just to remove button bloat. Like not actual... You're not really removing the complexity. You're just removing the total amount of buttons you have to press. And there's certainly more classes that could have things like that, you know? Wait, remove army, remove swipe. See, that's exactly what I think Blizzard would never do. I think army is like this super iconic. Oh, I guess you could do army like it was in WoD, where it didn't do a ton of damage, but you used it as like a tank cooldown almost. But like, you're saying you don't like army because it's just like too impactful to Unholy's rotation. Like it's too feast or famine with army. But like, I feel like part of the argument against giga pruning some specs is that you'd lose a ton of flavor by removing something like army, which is super thematic to Death Knights, right? Remove swipe. What? And just like, so no swipe, but thrash just isn't on a cooldown. I think Guardian is a little weird because it's like for both single target and AoE, you have like buttons used. Well, I guess swipe is kind of the same for both. Dude, imagine just playing Guardian and removing swipe. Well, I guess like right now you kind of don't press swipe, or at least the last time I pressed it or I played it, you didn't really swipe a lot. And it was just kind of there. Swipe used to make a lot more sense for Guardian, but now it's just like a filler ability you press like once a dungeon. I don't know. I can kind of see. There's definitely some like I'm just trying to think of a button that just doesn't need to be there, and if it was gone, it would just be good. There's probably a few for each class, but no one's out here naming like 5 buttons for each class, you know? Rushing Jadewind? You don't even spec that. You haven't played it the whole expansion. But yeah, hell yeah, you could fucking remove that from the class tree. It's a horrible ability, yeah.
Yeah, but
Tech, what do you think? You're just chilling back
like
there.
execute, for example. Execute, you just when you have the execute window, you hit it because it. Well, I'm just saying execute is an example of that because it like why do you hit it? Because it does a ton of damage.
yeah, but it's also
I feel like, but it's also only usable in a certain window. So I feel like you were saying, like explosive shot, like it'd be cool if things took different types of damage at different levels. Maybe when an enemy is exploded or whatever.
Well, it feels exciting.
See, this is where you're losing me, not him.
Hitting the last 20% of the boss.
Sorry, I turned my head like a dog when I heard that. But I feel like execute is not only flavorful, iconic, something their class does that other classes don't do or shouldn't do, even though they haven't been the best execute in the game for a bit. But
where you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna hit hard.
I'll tell you what is that like things like explosive shot and for example another one is like Fury of the Eagle. It was just a channeled spell, does a ton of damage. What they use those spells for is to bring legendary powers into it. Like for example, there's a legendary power that like buffs Fury of the Eagle and makes it interact with everything else. It makes like it bring down.
They didn't do that to add legendary powers. You can make a legendary power work with literally any other spell.
Down the cooldowns of these things, whereas before it would not.
Yeah, I think she overcooked.
Do that. It's just kind of like a dump it and forget it. Hit it when it's off cooldown. Because
I think she meant tier. I mean, you could make tier not have anything to do with any ability, right?
It does a ton of damage, but doesn't interact directly with your stuff. Like, I feel like every class, you could probably cut 1 or 2 buttons out of the rotation. Like you said, you have 2 builders in Shaman.
I'm sorry, I'm still thinking about that guy getting flashbanged, having 0 reaction, and then just going on. It's so funny to me.
What's the difference between pressing them? Like, why would you press one or the other?
It's so fucking
Well, depending
funny.
on your talents, one's stronger than the other.
Okay, just do one.
AoE versus no, but and don't get me wrong, I think like
one's a single target.
Or no, it could even be different than that. Like it's like one synergizes better with a boss versus one non-boss. But yeah. my I guess like what I'm thinking is.
Oh my god. Sorry, I was eating. He fucking leaned in. What is he looking at?
Or no.
Just do one.
AoE versus no, but and don't get me wrong, I think like
one's a single target.
Or no, it could even be different.
It's
than that.
like what could possibly be making this bright light?
Like it's like one synergizes better with
leans in.
A boss versus one
right here
non-boss. But yeah. My I guess like what I'm thinking is I hear you guys, like there's definitely, if we went to every one of our spell books, we probably could find 3, 4, 5
My
spells,
god,
right?
bro.
But I don't think it's as drastic as going from 35 to 25.
I think so funny.
35 to 25. I would say none of us agree going from 39 to 10 would be beneficial for this.
Of course not. No, I think it's
but
insane.
I think
and it's bad for the game.
From 35 to 25, you could sleek it up a little bit. Make it a little sleeker.
But would you feel like Beastmaster and Marksmanship would feel different enough after losing that much?
Depends on what they lost.
It depends.
Of course, yeah, but that's at risk.
God,
that's what's at risk
so
with this idea.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, there's some
well,
classes.
the idea of 10 is a lot different than 25.
No, let's stick with 25 as the example.
Sure.
25.
And I think they would still feel different, and if they don't, that's on the developer to make them feel different, which they have done before and they said, wow, all these classes share way too many of the same spells.
So there's definitely classes that do and don't need to have things reduced. Like, it's not this baseline thing across the game. Like, some classes, like, you have to, like, look at a new player. If you haven't done this, I've done this expansion. You have to watch someone who's new to this game play the game and see kind of what they're not getting. If you've played this game for a long time, there's stuff to you that just makes sense because you've done it forever that's, like, not really intuitive. And like, the overall reducing of buttons in the game sometimes isn't the problem. It's like certain rotations just have like a few too many things going on. And before you like have played WoW a lot and you understand procs and you understand buffs and like dots and stuff, like that's the thing where like some people just, it's really hard to get into. And that's not every spec. Like, no, like you don't need to take like I-Beam, Havoc, Demon Hunter and like prune shit. Like, it's really fucking easy to understand. And then something I think Blizzard has actually done brilliantly somehow is Havoc has had versions of it currently with inertia that require a bit more thinking, right? You have these like 20% damage windows that you try to fit things into, and old momentum, of course. And then they have the version of Demon Hunter that's 10 times easier than that, and it's just you press Blade Dance on cooldown, you press I-Beam on cooldown, it generates a full bar of Fury, and then you just spend with Chaos Strike, and that's it. That version of Demon Hunter, like since Demon Hunter has come out, has been plus or minus within like 3 to 5% of the best possible build, and it's like as easy as fuck with no movement, right? So they kind of have made that and balanced that and tuned that for everyone that plays Demon Hunter, right? So, but like that's not a class you need to prune, you know? BM is probably not a class you need to prune. There are just some classes and some specs where, like, I saw it firsthand with Frost Mage. Bro, Mage has way too much going on for a new player, for sure. But defensive bloat changes would make that a lot better. They just have, like, a million defensive buttons, too.
We have to give them a better spell identity.
And
Brewmaster could use a prune. Yeah, a BM meaning BM Hunter, Beastmaster.
And the community didn't like it.
Well, that's too bad. But I'm saying,
don't give them what they want.
No, I'm saying that.
No,
like,
don't give them what they fucking want, because they don't know what they want. That's my thing.
They're not gonna like anything, honestly.
I don't think the game's overly complicated the way that it is. I do think that the experience, like, there are some things they could certainly trim. Like, I don't think a DPS class needs 3 different. Like, Warlocks literally have like 3 different defenses. That's a little excessive. I feel like,
bro,
like
3, bro.
Don't
you guys play mages, bro? That is some bro. These are some mages talking about how warlocks are out here with 3 defensives, and that's a little excessive. That's crazy, bro. Flashbang guy is absolutely avoiding the truth here of mages having way too many buttons.
Class needs 3 different. Like, warlocks literally have like 3 different defenses. That's a little excessive. But
oh, I'm not a mage, my guy. Then why the fuck is your all's podcast called Around the Mage Table? Are you the guest or something? We have one mage at this mage table. Who came up with the name, the mage? I'm so confused. Yes, the mage? Oh, fuck it. Guys, is that not the most narcissistic mage behavior of all time? You make a podcast with 4 of your friends, and you're the only mage, and you just call it the mage table. Like, I wonder if he even fucking, like, discussed the name with the other, but just named it, you know?
I feel like
they're getting
like,
more.
The biggest thing they do need to change is the new player experience coming into.
Yes, I think we can all agree.
Yeah, we can all agree to that. The new player experience sucks ass. It's only for the old boomers.
Max, can you really comment on bad podcast names? Yeah, kind of true. But ours is bad on purpose. It fits the vibe.
Makes it so hard for new players is you quickly level up to 70.
Don't ha me.
You quickly end up with 36 buttons.
Yeah.
And then you need an add-on to help you realize you don't need all these buttons, and also when to hit these buttons at the right time, because they all need to somewhat interact with each other.
I don't think you need Hakili to learn, but the problem you could argue is that you need Wowhead.
Yeah, you need.
Yeah, actually, like if you're a new player and you're trying to learn a WoW rotation without at least some baseline information of a rotation guide, that's facts. New Leo's right. That's facts. That's true. YouTube video maybe too, yeah.
YouTube video, or you need something, or somebody to teach you.
But I don't think the 10 versus 25 would be the reasoning for that.
I think 10 versus 20.
No.
Like,
I think the argument is that the game doesn't do a good job of explaining to you how
you're gonna need Wowhead, I think, even if you have 10, right?
With 10, you could definitely. I mean, not that I want 10, but with 10, you could get away not knowing your buttons as
I'm
well
going
compared to 38.
I'm going to disagree with you hard on this, because if it's
Because
10 and 1
yeah.
is the wrong you're getting wrong, that's 10% of your possible DPS that could be affected as opposed to 5.
When there's 10 buttons, there is way less that you can actually mess.
Bro, right now in your WoW DPS rotation, you have less than 10 buttons. Fucking right now. Like maybe 3 specs in the game or something don't. Which mean no different.
Up in your rotation.
No, I think there's
No, I think it's the opposite.
Each button is more
No,
important.
you have a couple spenders, a couple.
But if you get one of them wrong, you've made a
the defensive thing is true though.
10% error as opposed to 35. You make one of them wrong.
But there's going to be more chance that they're more balanced because there's less of them.
I hate the idea of 10.
I don't want 10
Sure,
either.
sure,
I'm just
10 is
saying.
terrible.
I'm just saying with less buttons.
Dude, have you guys noticed how close this guy is to the camera now? He's just been slowly getting closer. I'm telling you, he is the podcast goat of doing funny ass shit when he's not talking. It's so good.
Make it easier for newer players, I think.
All right.
Imagine how simple the meta would be if all we have is 10 options. Like everyone would, or, you know, I mean,
But again, the
maybe there are
homogenization of all
40
the
options and we're all
I think
Yeah,
we can
sure,
hit
10 of
the
them.
middle ground. I think going down to like 30 or 25 to 30. Like different classes have
Yeah,
different amounts of buttons they play
But
with. I don't think that would hurt.
I really don't even think we have 30 that we actively use.
Bro,
your
if
spell
he-
might
if
have
he-
50
I have
spells,
30
If he blinds himself this close to the, I'm gonna laugh so hard.
20, you know,
Even
25.
No.
regardless of
Anyway.
the number, is there button bloat? Yes, there is.
Yes, there's button bloat.
Now,
I don't.
how
I
many-
think there's not, but
Well, there is if you can do content without certain characters.
Oh,
there
you
is
can see
button
it.
bloat, because you've now gotten too many abilities that nullify. You don't need a healer for a mythic 23.
That's just defensives though. Everyone's there. Everyone's there. Remove defensives for sure. It's like it's so good.
You don't
It's
need
a
one.
scale thing. Like
I would
like
say
a
that. I mean,
balancing thing.
you.
They just-
Where is it okay to not have a healer? Because we don't need a healer for a +2.
That's a balancing issue, not a button bloat issue.
No, but
Not
I'm
needing a healer.
saying if you have less.
Or
buttons,
it's a skill issue.
and
They're just
less-
that good that they're able to dance around the problem.
So if
Yeah.
you have less buttons, would it be as easy to dance around the problem?
Well,
If you had less
What?
no,
defensives
you just
and
you just
less-
be sliding the scale down. That's all.
No, I mean they build a game around how many defensives you can use. Like we see that all the time, where it's like you have to hit defensives on
Yeah.
cooldown on certain bosses and stuff like that.
Yeah, and that's trash. Not gonna do a whole cook on this again, but the game didn't used to be like that. Even in like recent, like literally the last expansion, bro. It was defensives weren't like that. You didn't have to have a defensive up for everything. Like it's so much worse now.
If there were less
Which
opportunities
is part
to
of
use
the
defensives
dance,
and
in
less
my opinion.
defenses,
Shadowlands good, bro. The healing profile and damage reduction profile in Shadowlands is way, way better than Dragonflight. It's gotten out of hand. What is this pinned message? Max, stop flirting with me, bro. Wait. Oh, is that the guy in the bottom? Oh, fuck. I can't help it, man.
part of the dance, right?
I
But,
like the
mean,
dance.
there's all
Don't
kinds
get
of
me wrong. It
horse
could be
shit.
I can't help it.
arguably just harder.
Here's where I think they
The
can
heart
pare it
wants what
down.
the
Is
heart
there's all
wants.
kinds of horse shit where it's like, I have a dispel, you have a de-enrage, you know,
Hey,
I have a soothe,
hey.
you have a this. Like
They're up.
that could all be put down to one button and everybody has access to it.
I don't know if I like that though.
I have a
like
kick,
I like the fact that
and we have three, like I have three different stuns. One's like this, one's like that. You don't have any stuns, you know. Like I think something like that could be more, you know.
like the only
spread
one that I
out.
want everyone to have access to is a silence. That's the only one I would say. Like
Okay,
everyone should
yeah, well,
have.
everybody has-
Really? So few classes have a silence, though. I think he means a kick. I think he means kick. He definitely means kick.
has a kick, so
No,
well,
they
some
don't.
healers
No, I
don't,
mean,
guess.
like,
He
I
means
mean,
kick for
yeah,
sure.
and not only that, but like boomkins have a kick, but it's the worst kick in the world. You know.
It can be the best kick in the world, but is yeah. Current day and age, I think Solar Beam is more of a detriment than a cool good thing.
Yeah, but that's something that I think that could be worked into taking down the button bloat. Is that
Sure.
like, you know, like let's have like instead of having a de-enrage,
Actually, yeah, you could get rid of a lot of that stuff too. Just like if you're talking outside of defensives, what can be pruned in this game? The amount of stops and stuns and knockups and all that stuff. I would hate to. This is definitely more, I think, impactful for PvP, and I wouldn't want to make the argument for them, but like just that kind of stuff seems a little crazy, at least in PvEers specifically.
like a you know, a dispel, a magic dispel, a poison cleanse or something. Can we make it all just like one fucking thing?
It is for healers.
It is for healers,
No.
but it's not for everybody else.
Oh
but
no, yeah, I see. Like disease, curse, poison. Like why can't those all be simplified into the reason why is for flavor, for sure, and to give classes different benefits. Like for example, if there's a really scary curse dispel, in this dungeon. Like maybe you wouldn't normally want to bring, this sounds so stupid, but you wouldn't normally want to bring a mage, but like you do because there's a curse to spell or a druid, right? That's the idea behind things like that. But I think there's a percent, like how much do people like the variety and things like that versus people that are like, that's just a lame restriction. And I think it kind of, at least our community, people that I interact with are much more aligned with the second one, right? Because it's like the opposite of like a raid buff problem, which is also
it's like, okay, some people will have a poison to spell and a magic to spell. It's like, okay,
No,
that
they
could be
don't.
button bloat taken down.
No, they cleaned that all up.
I have a D Enrage
No, they
and
didn't.
dispel.
Even
Yeah,
priests,
No,
priests
no.
have
But you just said a
2
magic and a
cleanses.
poison.
Yeah, like a mob can be, or you can remove curse, remove disease, remove magic, which is not necessarily the same thing. But then also you can like remove an enrage off of something. I think there's something in that big mix of things that is just like, could be, that all could kind of be, I know it's not a dispel, it's like an offensive remove, but I mean, it's like the same as a purge. Like a purge and an enrage removal is like very similar in its application. There's probably something that can be done to simplify that big mix of stuff.
Right?
Yeah, okay, so 2. One
But-
is
but
like
that's-
poison
but you just
disease,
use
the other one's
cleanse.
like magic, and you can't do curses.
No,
Yeah,
they-
there are certain healers that can't do certain things though.
yes,
There's
but
not
that's
any-
not
there's
button
not
bloat
any class
problem.
in the
That's
game
just not
that
giving them
can-
access to things.
Hold on. There's not any class in the game that can do a D Enrage and it's a separate button to do a cleanse.
Well, hold on, but that thematically doesn't make sense. Like, why would I? Well, what spell explains that I can de-enrage someone? Actually, no, Purge does. Purge does for shamans.
Okay, yeah. Well, same with whatever the fuck the hunter one is. It's D Enrage and magic to spell.
But thematically,
right?
wouldn't make sense for you to dispel someone.
Thematically, like I'm kicking a
shit, we're
guy
talking
and
about-
you're doing a fucking mana side, or what the fuck is the Death Knight one?
Oh,
The,
get
like,
fucking
Brain
owned.
freeze.
Get fucking owned.
Brain freeze, yeah. It's like
Oh,
it
new
doesn't-
Leo.
We all have our own it'll have its own name.
Yeah, but
right,
they're all
for how it
kicks.
takes
Those
care
are all
of it.
kicks. You're talking about a dispel and a de-enrage.
Well, I'm just saying it could be like it could all be that. Like a muzzle is different than a mind freeze, right? Like, you know what I mean?
I don't
Like
know what
it's
you mean.
like no, I mean like so we're all
Just
kicking.
say
right?
name is something else, but
Yeah,
have it
just
do
name it
both
something
jobs.
else,
Like
yeah.
purge the word.
Okay, now we're kind of getting into the weeds. They have like another 15 minutes of this, but I think we're
well for
let's see.
Okay, hold on. We're talking
dispelling
about
and
we're talking about
debuffing.
interrupts. We're talking about dispels. We're talking about de-enrage. Okay.
Yeah, we're getting off topic a
I'm
little bit.
saying the same way an interrupt can be thematic for every class. Like
Okay.
if you're using mind
Okay.
freeze,
Okay.
which is like a
Okay.
range like going into their head and
Dude, you all see that face?
freezing
Yes,
them.
yes,
I'm
yes.
using
It's
a
an
muzzle
interrupt.
because I'm a hunter.
Yeah,
It's
interrupt.
still interrupting their casting. Now,
So you
they
want everyone to have a
some sort of-
de-enrage?
No, they have some sort of effect on them that needs to be gotten rid of. Like it could be a magic effect, it could be an enrage or something. Everybody has access to something that will do that. It could be
Okay,
a fucking
okay.
muzzle.
So what you're
part
arguing
2
here is
for
that
me.
as a mage, since I don't have a de-enrage, you can make a spell for me that would de-enrage people. But that would be
Absolutely.
adding button bloat.
No, okay, so no, what I'm saying is that
Oh shit, new Leo kind of cooking.
they could kind of trim down, like, okay, like let's say you have like a,
Can I
what
help
do you have as a mage?
Oh shit.
Yeah,
So,
go on.
so
He's
like
got our
I
back
have
stepping.
decurse
like-
and I've
You have a
interrupt.
decurse.
priest
Okay, so just make
have, like, a
decurse do
dispel.
everything.
But that thematically
And a
doesn't make
cleanse.
sense.
make it
It
the
doesn't-
same button.
Thematically.
Muzzling somebody's
No,
fucking...
Mike, you lose versions of that depending on what spec you go.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
it turns
So I guess
into
it- yeah.
So just change the ability.
Dude, honestly, she's using the wrong way to like argue this. Just say like fuck mages and get on with it, you know? Like everyone can get behind that. You don't have to be specific. Just be like, bro, fuck you. You don't need that button.
to have less capability.
And that's
than-
it.
It does.
You
when
win.
you change
Based
from
on your
holy to
spec.
shadow, you lose the ability to spell magic.
Frank,
What
I'm
she's
s-
saying though is
you-
like just
yeah.
make it the same ability and
Make it
and
the same
change
ability.
the
Why does that have to be
tooltip if you
thematic?
change specs.
My kick is a muzzle.
But either
dude.
way,
You're
it's
putting
just
a muzzle on a
fewer
giant dragon. Like, why does it have to be so thematic? Like, it doesn't. Of course, I'm not muzzling. Of course, a rogue isn't kicking a giant dragon in the knee and it stops casting. Like,
Okay,
What do you
but
mean?
that's
You
because
don't
you
know
still
that.
need to have functionality, but that doesn't need to be you.
yeah, meet in the
I
middle.
don't think it should be able to interrupt.
So you're saying
bosses, man.
decurse should be able to
big ones, not big
to
ones.
to
This is a legendary yap.
to de-enrage as well?
Yeah, I don't see why not. Enrage is kind of like a magical effect. You get magically bigger. You get
But it's not a
5%
magic;
bigger.
it's a curse.
Okay,
You're talking about a
curse can be
fantasy-based.
magic effect.
We talked about fantasy missing
I'm
from the
saying
game.
This is
and-
bloat, dude.
This is the point where someone in the argument needs to call the other one a bitch and that person wins, and then you just move on, you know? Maybe that'll happen. That would actually be insane if that happened.
A magic could be a curse.
No,
could
because you
be,
wanted
like,
to add more.
No, I'm saying
you wanted to make
I'm
decurse
saying-
more valuable.
No,
Call him a fucking mage, bro.
saying
Call him a fucking blink merchant.
merge them together. That would get rid of bloat if there's less things that you have to do. Constantly in dungeons, I have a dispel, a magical dispel, right? I'm like, can I dispel that? Can I dispel this? Can I dispel that? It's like, no, that one you can't do. You can do incorporeal, but you can't do this one. It's like, if they were all the same thing, it would be more intuitive.
Yeah.
Max, nah, she's on one. She's onto something. You cannot have every class be able to do everything that everyone else can do. That leads to class stacking, which is worse. Yeah. Well, same thing if you remove raid buffs, you could make the same problem, but removing raid buffs would be good for the game, right?
But then you wouldn't be taken because you're a hunter and you don't have any reason to bring you because your DPS is the worst.
Okay, what does that have to do with anything?
What's the last subject?
That's
we
my
need to talk
point.
about?
This is it.
Excellent.
No, I'm
So,
saying
when
it's a
you-
bloat that we could remove is like, okay,
No,
boss has
I'm-
some sort of buff on them. Everybody should be able to kind of get rid of that. It
We'll
doesn't
just have
matter
to
what the
agree to
fuck
disagree.
it
All right.
is. Okay.
So
Wrapping
We
it
both
up,
agree.
we all agree 10 is too little.
Yep.
Frank likes 38.
I like more the better.
Yes, you
Ooh. I think we're in a good spot right now. I think you could prune defensives. I think you could prune some micro CC stuff. Most rotational stuff, like 90% of the specs, could probably be left alone. And some could use some work. But the whole, like, the more the better, that's crazy.
like more the better. But
Bro, what a mage thing to say.
they could, if they wanted to,
Holy moly.
definitely bring down some of the buttons because some of them definitely could co-work together. Hence why
Oh, like, it makes sense with my lore. Like, I'm a mage, right? I'm super smart, bro. Like, I've read all these books. I know all these spells, bro.
they do let you write in script to hit one button that'll do 3 things. So
You mean via macro,
yeah,
but only if
So-
it's off the global.
yes. So it's already
Yeah.
within their idea that they're like, oh, these skills work really well together. So they definitely could have something where
Yeah,
you
but
could
that's
pare some of it
very
down.
rare.
It's not that rare.
Like you said yourself, Frank, all of us could
That top right guy is very handsome. Bro, fucking facts. Can you see him just, like, ripping a TED Talk right now about, like, evolutionary biology or something? Just right off rip. I mean, that is kind of going against my mage theory, but...
go through our spell books and cut something.
I don't think I could. Not on my end.
Or IPAs, yeah. I also have that look, too. I look like I could give you a bunch of craft beer recommendations.
No, but like this design-wise, like for example, I couldn't realistically.
Dampen magic? When's the last time you
Yeah.
used dampen magic, bro?
Do I still
No,
have dampen magic?
Frank, I'm talking about stuff
Yes.
you use.
No.
Like obviously.
They just don't have
hold on.
dampen magic.
I'm talking about stuff you use. Like for example, obviously I use explosive shot because it's a ton of
yeah.
damage. It doesn't work into my rotation elegantly,
Yeah.
gracefully. It doesn't
Sure,
interact
but that's a
with anything else.
design problem.
That's what
Remember when Explosive Shot used to light up real big when Black Arrow ticked? Those were good days.
the kind of stuff I'm talking about
Not a
cutting
bloat
is that there's stuff that probably you just press because you press it every time it's up, but it doesn't interact.
No, I don't feel that way.
I feel like your mind is very closed. Is your problem?
Okay.
No, like I think you could get rid of buttons. I think
Yeah.
also some of those
Yeah.
buttons will end up being
Hold up.
defensive. But
No, I don't feel that way.
I feel like your mind is very closed. Is your problem?
Bro, this last, like, 20 minutes of the podcast has been fucking spicy, bro. Tell him what the fuck is up.
Okay.
no, like I think you.
They got a
could-
nice vibe, though. I like that. They kind of go at each other a little bit. They listen to each other's shit. They all have, like, kind of unique perspectives. This is actually a pretty good show.
get rid of buttons. I think
Like it.
also some of those buttons will end up being defensive in the end.
There's
That
a
will
different
be
argument
fine.
to be made about defensive bloat and how the design
Talking
of
about
the game is.
rotation.
Yeah.
below,
No, not even rotation, because there could be, again, pickpocket I think is a perfect example of this conversation, right? I would argue.
Discounted 27 abilities. Ugh.
I don't think pickpocket
bar.
is relevant.
Oh, I'm sorry.
because
sorry.
I
He
would
just-
argue.
Look at this 3-second, like, just sequence from this guy. Starts talking, makes a stink face, and there's like a 0.5-second flashbang.
27 abilities. Ugh.
I don't think pickpocket
bar.
is relevant because I don't. What's
not
wrong with
counting
having
potions and
pickpocket?
crap.
He's not using pickpocket. It's fine.
Yeah, so get rid of it.
Oh, we're back to
No,
pickpocket.
but I mean, you could use it like for RP or something like that. Like I like the cute.
Yeah, bro, if you're like a little rogue out in the world, like you don't have to like fully understand pickpocket. You could never have it on your bars and it wouldn't matter, but it could only positively affect you if you're like going through and you're like, haha, I'm gonna steal something from this guy, and then you press it. You know? It can just be on your stealth bar where you normally don't even have a bind there, you know? Like I just don't understand why, you know what I mean? I just feel like pickpocket is such a meaning, not a great example.
Little stuff.
You want to leave pickpocket for RP, but you have a problem with the fact that the hunter can de-enrage, but I can't.
Your mind is closed, buddy.
I would rather 10 like RP abilities. 10 of my abilities get turned to RP abilities, like then get cut. You know.
All right, I'm leaving it there. Shawnee, any last words?
Yeah, I think Asmongold takes were horrible.
Horrible.
Because he wants them to be horrible, and he wants people to view them. He wants us to sit here and mention his name 8.
I don't think that's true. There are people. Well, okay, the Asmon takes that they're discussing here were definitely tough, but that's one thing I actually don't think is true about Asmon. I don't agree with him a lot, but when I listen to him give takes, I don't hear someone who is being negative on purpose. I hear someone that is being asked a question and answering it genuinely, and I think the place where he comes from, his answers in retail come from a bad place. Like when he talks about other things, he's usually very concise, well thought, measured. And when you hear him talk about retail, it's clearly coming from a different emotional place than that. But I think it's genuine. I don't think he's not. There are people in this world who make negative WoW videos for fucking views all the time, and I don't think it's genuine. I don't think he's one of them. That being said, I think his editors oftentimes make him seem that way for sure. So I don't think Asmon's doing this because he wants to say, hey, look at me. He's just fucking way bigger than every other WoW personality, so his opinions get heard regardless.
85 times.
Can I piggyback off this idea?
But the exact 3 things that they're discussing and in that specific video are like ridiculously bad takes. Yeah.
Though, but I think it's more than that. I think it's the person who wants the game to go back to the way it was, but one, it never will. It like even if they made it the exact same way, which they have in Classic effectively, it will not be the game it used to be. And 2, the reason.
Well, also the game, and maybe he'll get into this. Crazy, I did him really bad here with this pause, but the game is not. It's as much to do with the game not going back to the gaming community. Like the gaming community has just changed from 2004 to 2024. What people want in games is different than what they wanted in games then. The games outside of WoW are so much different and more and better than they were in 2004, and more specialized to what you want. And the game has fractured into different parts of people playing the game, but that's just because the game's been out forever. I think as much of that, and Blizzard's stuck in kind of an impossible position designing for all these people, but I don't know. Let's let him finish. I'll back it up.
They have in Classic effectively. It will not be the game it used to be. And 2, the reason a lot of it is why is because like Asmon and I and you and all of us have gotten older. Like we have changed.
Fucking facts.
Like even the game that you think you want back then, I think that because you have changed, it's also not going to be the same game. So like I just wanted to piggyback off that idea.
Yeah, but I do personally feel there, like looking at my character now, is there some buttons that could probably be gone? Sure, you know.
I'll look after we finish up here. I want to see it.
Yeah, I'm looking at Rhett and I'm like, yeah, there's some buttons that could go. You know, would them getting rid of buttons actually make the different specs more different and feel different because they do?
The answer to that is absolutely no. The argument that you could keep specs feeling different by removing buttons is possible, but saying that the specs would feel more different by removing them is false. You would, no matter what, the less buttons that people have in WoW. If you, let's say every class right now is 29 buttons. I'm making that button up. If you were to go to 20, would classes feel more of the same or more different? The answer is more of the same. It's not close. Not saying you couldn't still accomplish that, but 39 specs with a massive prune, I mean, it absolutely would feel more similar.
Have different uses? Maybe not.
Yeah.
So when you have a spec that's 3 DPS, could it be that they make them more different somehow? I think it's in the end
an
more
interesting
design.
question to pose to someone who hasn't played it for 20 years, you know?
Well,
like,
I think the
let's
general
ask someone
consensus
who's
is
maybe
that they, there's a really good video on
5 years.
YouTube of someone
Is
who
the
came from
problem
RuneScape.
really that there's too much shit, or is the problem really that
There's a really good video on someone who came from RuneScape? That sounds kind of cool.
leveled so fast you don't know what the
What
shit
is that
is?
video?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think there's just, I mean,
I agree, Technique. I think the reason we're comfortable with so many buttons is because we've been playing it for 10 years. Like, we've been used to
I
these
wish there
40
was less.
buttons.
What is it? You should watch it. It's a bad video. He didn't even get to max level. You should watch it. Not getting to max level doesn't mean it's necessarily a bad video. Giving a take on WoW that a lot of people listen to and it's like doesn't even involve hitting max level could be kind of off base. But I mean, also I could just watch it if I really cared to know exactly what it's about. But you could also not get to max level and explain your reasoning why. And then that makes sense. Especially a RuneScape player. RuneScape definitely, old school RuneScape especially, buys into that like old school MMO feeling, which is very much more classic WoW and not retail. So I could see someone just being turned off by that, I guess. But I don't know. Which he does, and it's valid. Think it's worth a watch? Yeah, not today. Maybe.
Yeah.
I really do wish there was less. And there are certain skills I wish would work better together, in the sense of I wish it was 2 buttons. And
Yeah.
so, but I think Asmongold's way of thinking for it is, if you only have 10 buttons, do you really need an add-on? Not as much, because you don't have 38 things that you're trying to keep track of all at the same time.
You can play
I don't
classes
like
that
that.
have less buttons.
No one's class is trying to pay attention to 30 things at the same time. That's just crazy. Like that's not even close to that. Like that's
It's in
Yeah.
your rotation,
Yeah,
though. I
like-
think.
Scrap, how many buttons
should
does
you-
Fury have?
I guess you could argue that in PvP because you're not only tracking all of your buttons but everything the opponents are doing, but that's kind of the whole point of PvP.
Like,
3.
depending on the season, like 3 or 4. Same with Beastmaster
Yeah.
Director.
My
Yeah,
Frost
and then
DK
is
has
it-
4 on his bar.
Is
Yeah,
it fair
4
to
or
make
5.
fair for the game to make it so you have to play a certain class? We don't want somebody.
No. But I think, and my ultimate thought process behind the multi buttons is it makes that there's a bigger mountain to climb. Yes, some people might argue I don't want that game. Okay, fair enough, right? Like,
And don't play that game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But like for me, I wanted like, wow, that's a very big mountain. And yes, today I'll learn how to use, my arcane missiles correctly. Tomorrow I'll learn how to use alter time properly, right? Like I love that sense of progression still left above me,
Okay.
even though, as we pointed out, we're playing in a space of the top 3%. I still have so much more to learn. And that's why I like it.
2 questions related to that.
mage.
Would you quit WoW if
I'm
it
just
had
learning, bro.
less
I'm
buttons
just-
on your
I
character?
like to
Yeah,
learn.
most likely.
I probably wouldn't
And-
play it as much. Yeah.
Would you still play WoW if you had 38 buttons, but you couldn't have a weak aura to help you with those 38 buttons?
It's
I don't
hard-
need cores to help me play.
I say
my
I don't.
character.
I
yeah,
do.
I, don't
I
have
heavily
that.
do. Yeah, I heavily do. And
I know,
in fairness,
and I know you do, Frank. And I'm not saying that.
Yeah,
you
it's
shouldn't have
only in Arcane
I-
that it's a problem, right?
right.
That's probably just because the game didn't do a good enough job of like articulating like, oh, this buff's up right now, or
I don't think I'd
Whatever.
quit, but I think I wouldn't like it as much, which to your point would obviously be a detriment. But for me, the reason why I like it is because there's kind of like a dopamine hit when and again, it's because I like creating the weak auras and making this like kind of different UI, that like I'm making this synergy between what I'm trying to effectively spell weave, right? Because there's so much going on that I enjoy that. So yeah, I mean like Arcane, but I'd play Paladin, I'd play my tank, no problem, if that were the case.
Do you think a new player?
Bro, I have so much going
They're
on. Like,
coming in
I'm just fucking with him, but I
like
just think it's so funny.
Arcane.
No, Arcane's like the worst example of why
You know,
a new player
anybody
would
who likes Arcane, including Frank.
Yeah, exactly.
Bro, Frost Mage is supposed to be the Giga Easy mage spec, and I have seen someone be stun locked insane trying to figure out that.
Exactly.
No, like I'm just.
That's
no,
why
and
I
don't-
like it.
I don't think it's. Yeah, I guess in the end, I think I personally really enjoy WoW, even though I haven't been playing a lot right now because I don't have a ton I want to do in it. But yeah, I don't think it's ever going to revert back to 40-man raids, 10 buttons. Like, it's not going back to classic WoW. So if that's what you want,
Classic
then you
WoW
should play
had so
Classic,
many
'cause it's
fucking
there.
buttons, dude. Just like
Yeah,
You know.
Classic was worse.
Classic WoW had insane
And they
amount
were
of
you go
buttons.
useless.
raid, you go raid,
Yeah.
and you have literally 2 or 3 of them at use.
And I'd have
Yeah,
to
yeah.
dampen magic for 40 people individually.
They were entirely like as a hunter, it's like there are buttons that you would like never ever use except these tiny
You
little.
pickpocketed
situations.
more than you in the back then.
Oh, yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
let's talk
No,
about
I
that
think
again.
it's definitely gotten better in that regard.
Let's
And
talk
I
about
think
that.
like once you learn all the buttons, it's really satisfying because you have so much control over your character.
Yeah,
right?
I think
And I think that's good. But do I think that there's design?
What is it? Who spreads this propaganda that Arcane is hard? It's not even top 5 hardest specs in the game. Well, first of all, is there any like arbiter of like I have determined the exact difficulty? Usually people are like pretty biased to their own specs, but I think it all stems. There was like this meme at the beginning of this expansion where like the Arcane rotation was posted on Icy Veins or something, and it like had like fucking 50 steps to it and a bunch of like different things, and it like, and I don't even know if that was correct, but like that kind of stuck in people's minds as to it being super overwhelming, I think. Or as with most things, Asmongold probably said something about it once, but I don't know if it's actually like that. I mean, I my own personal anecdote, I have seen a lot of people in my guild who are not mage mains play mage as an alt, and the skill difference between the mains on fire is to alts is pretty low. On Frost, it's pretty low. On Arcane, it's pretty large from what I've seen. So I just assume it's either less intuitive or has more going on because it has the biggest difference between what mains do and what alts do than the 3 specs that I've seen over a long period of time.
Flaws. Do I think that adding more buttons every expansion, like every expansion is like, oh, you get a new ability, oh, you get a new one, oh, you get a new one. I think that eventually they're gonna have to debloat it. Like,
They do. They usually do.
Yeah.
I think Mike had the best point though of just like, this is a leveling problem. This is an introduction to the spells.
Well,
problem.
I think we can all agree to that.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think if that could be the solve, that would be where I'd put my energy.
Yep.
I would put it into both, I think.
How you would do that would be very difficult.
Give us a flashbang for the road.
I mean, make leveling longer, which people would hate.
Leveling more fun.
No, I think
make it more rewarding.
Who says they would hate it? Who says they would hate it?
I don't think they'd hate it. I think though you'd have to make a point like where it'd be scenarios.
Now
or whatever.
this is actually an interesting topic.
Like, okay, so let's say I have to teach a paladin how to use their defensives. Like, you'd have to have a scenario where it's like, okay, this is going to happen, and you need to learn what
what's fucking great, Frank,
do.
is that they need more of is like the Mage Tower.
Fucking facts, but we'll get into that in a second. So leveling longer. So I feel very strongly about one thing with leveling, and that is I believe the second time you level and actually do most things in WoW, it should be significantly faster. If you've leveled on your main and now you're leveling on your alt should just fly through leveling. There's nothing novel about doing that again. Same thing with gearing. If your main took X amount of Mythic Plus runs to get this many crests and had to spend this many upgrades and had to farm the raid this many weeks to get geared, your alt should take half of that. There's just nothing novel about that experience, and getting that character geared up faster to do content you want to do is just something that it just should be quicker. Like some kind of discount on crests or something like that. But as far as leveling the first time, my thing personally is that I think questing has just kind of been figured out in MMOs. Like, you can't really make quests that interesting. And like, let's just say questing to max level takes 8 hours right now when an expansion comes out. If it took 16 hours, would those extra 8 hours be interesting, or would it just feel like because like, I don't know, questing initially you haven't done it in a while, so you're like, all right, I can get down with this. But then I think of like New World, and New World I was like playing it when it first came out, and then I like was like level 30, and I'm just like, bro, I've been doing the same like 6 quests for however long, and then now I have to do that for 30 more levels. Like, that sounds bad. Now, New World, different game, but most quests could probably be broken down to like 6 quests, right? It's like, collect these things, talk to this guy, kill this big guy at the end. They like, kind of work together, but they're all like kind of the same thing. Like, is doing that process for longer gonna really, I guess maybe you're asking for more story, but it would just feel like a lot of filler. I feel like I don't know if I'd be a fan of it, but let's hear their takes. But she said the game should have more things like Magetower, which is fucking absolutely true.
Because the Magetower will make you use every button on your
that's
thing.
true. That is
So
true.
if there were more challenges like that would like slowly ramp up as you're leveling, like you have to, for example, the little beginning
Every
part.
single dungeon boss should feel that way. I feel I feel
yeah,
like you
that's a
should
different
have to
discussion,
use your
but-
shit.
Bro, how do they not make another Magetower? Like, I know they brought that one back, but like, how do they not do that more? It's like one of the few things in this game that's universally, I feel like people always make the wrong argument with casual players, and they're like, they don't want any kind of challenge whatsoever. When you listen to anyone talk about Magetower, they're like, I really like that it challenged me and made me use all of my abilities at every level, right? And I don't know, that just seems like, how do you not do that again, you know?
Sure, but we can't time it then because
But across an entire dungeon array, like across like 8 dungeons.
We don't know anything about delves. I mean, okay, maybe they do in the next expansion, but do you guys know Legion came out 8 years ago?
You kind of, I feel like I
Think
do
about that.
get to use every
7.5 years ago.
at my disposal.
So, if you were trying to find a way, I know we're trying to close, but like if you were trying to find a way to introduce buttons better, would it be better to make every character have class-specific quests at certain points?
Yes.
'Cause, like,
Yeah.
when you have a demon hunter,
I love that.
and you
every
have-
10
with the
levels you have
demon-
to have a very specific class
Yeah, like
journey.
when
I
you
think so.
start a demon hunter, you
kinda
start
like
in the
that.
demon hunter zone.
I like this
and
cook.
they like give you a skill and then
Yeah.
give you another one, but they like
They would have to be really well made, but like, yeah, like, I don't know, at some point you just have like a little challenge, and it just makes sure you definitely know how to use a few of your abilities. That would be great. I think Final Fantasy does this. Final Fantasy did that and then abandoned it because it's dog shit. All right, never mind.
slowly explain them and they work them into the quests.
I would say that's
There's,
not
like, a
enough
spot
though.
where- I know.
Just
I'm
do
just saying, like,
But yeah, the
Demon
idea is there.
Hunter, they've already kind of somewhat done that. So yeah, every so many 10 levels are like, go see this. Like, I know we're referenced Diablo because it's the other game I play, but in Diablo, when you get your hero abilities, they give you a quest specifically center around it.
I think that,
right? So
they do that a little bit, like when you do the first, like you're on the boat 1 to 10 leveling experience that they added.
What is it? Frank is kind of contrarian. Never say something bad about Frank for the rest of your life, buddy.
Like it's like, okay, you're gonna get kick. Now you have to kick this thing. You know? It's like, okay, watch out for the tail, watch out for the mouth.
But that's not class specific.
No, it's not class specific, and that's the issue, is that the classes are so different, which is good, that they need very specific training, like, to be given, right? So you have to go to a YouTube video or Wowhead or whatever the fuck. It would be great if there was some sort of, like, teaching experience.
Yeah, it's called Wowhead.
Yeah, no, but I think something in the form of like a mage.
I agree for sure. Like, I just think watching Suki play this game, if she would have had more things that she had to apply herself at alone, she like got max level and then just started doing Mythic Plus with her friends. Like, I don't know, just something that requires you to at least have a basic understanding of stuff. And, well, not requires you, but like gives some cool rewards to it. And Magetower did that. But you could make even something easier than Magetower. I think it's actually, I think they're onto something for sure.
Our style boss, you know, or like wasn't it in Pandaria they had like the gold and the silver and the bronze. Like,
but that was also not catered towards class, so that was catered toward role.
But still, you have to use all your shit. Like, you have to having experiences in leveling where you actually have to use all your shit and not just press 4.
But also worth pointing out that not everyone who plays this game, and probably a pretty decent percentage of people actually, don't care about knowing how to play their character well at all. Are there people that do care about that? Like they want to use this, but like you're talking about for the betterment of the entire game. But there's so many people that are unspoken for that just play WoW and vibe and don't give a fuck about being good and using all their spells. Why do they even play the game then? To farm mounts, to get transmog, to, well, a lot of different reasons, to follow the story in the patch, to do the quest line in the new zone when it comes out. There are plenty, and you guys listen to this and you probably think I'm crazy. There's so many people like that. They just fucking vibe out. They're just gaming
over and over again, because you can level pressing one button the whole time and never die. Like,
so,
you know,
in the end, it's really just Blizzard's going to do a better job with their game explaining a lot of things, and some things need to be built in or more noticeable, because you get rid of
one thing they haven't really talked about, especially when talking about new players, is when you hit max level, you have no idea what to do. You're given like 4 9-chapter long quests and you have no idea which one to start. It doesn't like point you in the direction of the one that's for the current patch. It's just like, go do this stuff. I feel like that could definitely be made to be a little bit more fluid.
The DBM, if you make the boss fights slightly more, like, they already are predictable, but if, like, you know, noise goes off or something, you know what I mean? Like,
they do. The only thing DBM has over not DBM is like the timers, and then like debuffs. Like, if I can see your debuff, Shawnee, like if you,
she is right. A lot of you guys probably don't realize this, we mentioned it earlier, but like basically every raid mechanic has a distinct thing in game that lets you know it's happening, either a specific voice line or a sound. And there are people in my guild who use those exclusively for raid mechanics. But the timers and knowing when things are coming up is different.
Have something that says like, oh, you have a little timer over your head that says like 10, 9, 8, 7, 6. I should have access to that without DBM. But as far as like boss is gonna do a big laser, they're like,
every debuff that expires and you need to know when it's going off, that a weak aura currently tells you that it's counting down 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, could just have a Halandr's bomb mechanic over your head, and it instantly solves that problem, and it's more visual.
99% of the bosses have a tell for AoEs or for whatever the fuck.
They don't just turn around and go,
yeah, you do not need DBM to say, okay, move your feet, like whatever the fuck.
But
you do not need
people that are playing and distracted.
Well, again,
right?
Yeah, but that's not the game's fault.
I know, but that was someone's point that they need it because they get kind of distracted.
No, the point is not that you don't need it, but some people might enjoy to have it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm saying.
Bring us on.
Huh?
Oh, jeez.
We're hitting the 2.5 hour mark here. I want to.
Oh yeah, this is part 2 of a podcast. They ripped a 2.5 hour pod.
Let's do Plunderstorm.
No, I feel like the game.
Are they gonna hit Plunderstorm in 4 minutes?
I don't like necessarily the like, oh, teach me through tutorial. I was talking about this with Shawnee earlier. I feel like I watched a video on like the perfect game.
Oh, Plunderstorm is the first half. Oh, I really want to hear what they think about Plunderstorm.
And, you know, you're introduced to things by playing the game. You learn new abilities by beating a boss and earning the ability to do it, whatever. But you got to be careful with that in a game like WoW, because like you can't have so much class specific stuff because it is a multiplayer MMO.
You can. It just would be a huge sink of resources.
Yeah, but you don't want to be. I wouldn't want to be torn between like, oh, do I got to go do my class specific thing, or do I want to play with my buddy? You know, like that's kind of.
Well, it wouldn't be something you're farming all the time. It would, you know.
I don't know. They just need to be. It needs to be introduced organically. It needs to be like fluid, a little bit slower than it is now, and maybe based on like how many times did you use Frostbolt? Are you really ready to move away from Frostbolt? Like, okay, you earned your next ability, and let's use that for a bit.
That could be fun.
Ooh, actually, kind of like that. Like when you're leveling, at least, like I kind of can see that. Like yeah, you've had this spell for like a couple levels, but like you haven't pressed it once and you don't understand it, and it's like, okay, let's give you the next one. It's like, no, you actually don't get the next one until you've like pressed that button and at least have a more likely chance to understand what it does. Kind of like that.
It's definitely like I enjoy, and I talked with this about Shawnee earlier too. Well, maybe it wasn't Shawnee, it was Dookie, the other guy.
Bro, how the fuck do they do a 2.5 hour pod?
When I see a new game like Last Epoch, I don't run to Wowhead for Last Epoch and find out what the meta build is. I talked to you about this too, Rich.
I do.
Like,
yeah.
I went to Max.
You do because you want to, though. Last Epoch actually did an excellent job of letting you kind of spec however you wanted and just figure it out. Great. That game did a really good job.
I want to know what everyone else is doing just so I can click their build and do it.
Yeah, fuck that.
Read all the options.
Yeah, let's fucking go.
And like optimize what I think is cool, and then learn eventually that, oh, this sucks, and like do something different. That's a lot of the fun for me.
Is it single player though, Last Epoch?
No, it's multiplayer. It's single player in the sense that like
you could do it by yourself.
You're not in a party depending on that party member to do anything for you so you can win. Like you can win it individually or you can win it together. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's not like WoW where like a tank can go and do a dungeon by himself.
I genuinely, there's no other game that I play. Of course, I don't play a lot of MMOs that I look stuff up to find the best, right?
I think WoW's trained me to do this though.
I think WoW is a unique game, and we all rely I think the game allows us to rely too much on Wowhead and too much on add-ons and stuff, you know, and I love them. I love having the resources and I love having the add-ons and stuff, but I also think it really hurts the developers. It makes it really difficult for them to make the game hard, but also welcoming to new players.
Certainly over time.
It's a really long conversation, man. Tough one to bring home for you. So
I'm gonna watch this whole thing. Holy fuck.
The game needs tweaks. It doesn't need a hatchet like what Asmongold wants.
No,
the game needs tweaks, doesn't need a hatchet. True.
No, the game that Asmongold wants to build.
All right, chat. Who in this podcast, not that it's a competition, but we read this, who for you guys was the most based? Who's the person that's out here spitting? Actually, I'm just asking who the person you guys agree with the most, and the point of watching this is because a lot of you guys wouldn't actually agree with a lot of it. Bottom left? Yeah, she was spitting a lot. She was spitting a lot. Top right and bottom left? I think top right is the person making the arguments that most closely align with what people who play this game that you wouldn't describe as casual would think, I think. The bottom right guy is fucking awesome. The flashbangs, the little stink face he's doing right now. Some of his takes he had were fucking wild, and some of them were like really, really good and like really insightful. Like the first thing he said, super CEO-like. This guy's mic's wild. This guy definitely seemed more jaded to me, just over everything. Like he doesn't even want to be talking about this shit. He's like, this shit's fucking stupid. But he had a lot of good points about the button bloat stuff.
That's pretty short. His takes are stupid. And
he's probably the mage. No, he's the mage.
Just
if seven
insane. They're insane. Old man yelling at cloud.
Million people are paying for it monthly. Like it does not need to be completely redone.
After 20 years. Too.
Yeah,
like,
it's gone down from what, like at the peak it was like at 11 million down to 7 million. I mean, that's like huge retention. Like it's fine.
The next closest MMO that has that kind of, like, I think it's like maybe 1 million subs. Like,
but to say that something that's gone from 11 to 7 when there's so much more variety, like I feel like that could be accounted for just from the amount of choice. Like there's so many MMOs you could play other than that. There's so many games you play other than that.
In this sub, there's
exactly right.
So many MMOs. You got Classic, you got Season of Discovery, and you have this.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like 20 years ago, it's like if you wanted to experience like this, there was nothing like it. So everybody's playing it. And now
she's exactly right. Insane flashbang at the same time, by the way.
Oh, there's tons of games like this. On top of that, like you can play any game you want on Steam at like using up your time. Like it's not like I'm stuck to go downstairs to play on the TV, my Atari or whatever the.
She's exactly right. I at least in my opinion, it's like in 2008. A WoW patch came out and new things were out, and then the WoW patch kind of just got a little less fun over time, right? Because you just got the new stuff, and then the new patch came out, right? Then it's the same thing. Less fun over time. But in 2008, here's how fun like every other game in the world was. Like WoW just fucking shit on every other game. It was just better. And then now, other MMOs, other games are so much more specialized that this is why you see a lot of WoW players doing this. Here's how good every other game is now for someone who enjoys WoW. It's like, at any point in time, you could log off WoW and have that much fun playing whatever your favorite game is outside of WoW. New WoW seasons and new WoW expansions still bang, but then as the season goes on, you've kind of seen everything, and you're like, okay, maybe it's time to play some other games now, and then you come back on a new thing, and then it's there. I just think the bar of how good other games, I think WoW has definitely gotten better over time, and so has every other game, and that line has gotten a lot closer between your decision to play other things. So the people played WoW and wanted it to entertain them for all year round, because it was just still, even WoW at its lowest point, just shit on everything else. And I think right now there's just a lot more better options. Game's 20 years old. Flashbang? Yeah, true.
Fuck, right? Like, there's so much more choice, and for that to only lose 4 million of retention, like, the game is fine. It could always be better. Tweak it. Don't hatchet it. This is not a failing game.
I think that's a good point to end it on. The game is, I think it's in
Bro,
great shape.
she is awesome.
Yeah, it's in great shape.
She has really good takes, in my opinion.
Well, I appreciate every one of you giving you, let's call it a extra innings episode. And, you know, Shawnee, I love you. Anything else you want to add?
I'm a scrap. I think it is a great game. I think.
Yo, you guys should follow them, by the way. Hard follow them. Here we go. We're hitting the sub. This was super interesting. I'm going to listen to more of their episodes. I don't know on stream, but just to get some different perspectives. Did you guys enjoy listening to this on the stream, hearing some different takes about stuff we've talked about before? I thought it would have been a good idea, but I'll link the video. Make sure you guys give this a watch, and then if you guys want to sub and follow them, make sure to check it out. That was a roller coaster ride. Yeah, that was fun as fuck. Max, now talk to them. I have a hockey game I have to go to. I can't. They're all in my chat right now. I could just call them on Discord right now and do like a follow-up conversation about this. Maybe that's something we can do in the future. Maybe when you guys are like, Max, you're so out of touch, you know? You're so biased. You're in your own world. You need to don't talk to dumbass Dorky. He thinks just like you. Talk to some people that have different perspectives. Maybe I can call them up. Not to say that they speak for everyone too. Like they do heroic raids. There are people that play this game for all different kinds of reasons, but it's certainly a little bit more away from the way that we play. So Dorky catching strays. Yeah, he stays catching strays. Yeah, Dorky's the new Leo. Max, check the comments. We already checked the comments. It's really funny. So basically, if you want to go through it, there's this guy named Tony R who just is going through it in the chat. He's just like, bad game design, yes, remove the add-ons, fucking all caps, I have to download add-ons, bad game design, we need 40-man raids, literally just parroting Asmongold's takes. And he has like 5 different messages where he's like, this girl is so fucking stupid. Everything she brings up, she just doesn't fucking get it. And then you realize in one of his comments that he doesn't even play WoW. He's like, WoW hates new players. I would love to get into WoW, but I can't. And it's like, wait, so you have this many strong opinions about WoW and you don't play it? That's weird. Wait, who's your favorite streamer? But then I was wrong, because he actually says during one of these either where, this is my opinion as someone who has been constantly watching videos on WoW and really, really wants to get into this game. But then he points out he's actually not an Asmon shill either, so don't start. So I'm not going to start. I mean, he said he's not, right? I don't know where he would have gotten all these super strong opinions about WoW, really. But yeah, I mean, he said he's not, so. Yeah, okay. So it's been lit. Wait, I can usually proc my dogs by acting like the stream's going to end. 1 second. All right, I'll see you guys later. Oh, that didn't work. You saw the head perk up. What do I usually say? I usually like sit up and say it, I think. All right, I'll be on tomorrow. I'll see you guys later. Okay, there we go. I think I procced him. Okay. Yeah, potty farewell. Pod bye. Here you go, buddy. Come on. Hey, come say hi. Reptar, come say bye, buddy. Yeah. Come say bye to the people. Yeah. Oh, you're a Reptar. You're just a little Reptar. Yeah, you're a Reptar. Okay, Reptar said bye. I'll see you guys later.